Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
Besides, they both had sanctuary powerhouses to preside over the team and provide support. Hence, the real deciding factor of victory was still their respective military teams that would go toe-to-toe against each other on the battlefield. Besides, even the most elite legion was at best composed of legendary powerhouse. Hence, the Mirage Sphere would be a great lethal weapon against enemies below the sanctuary realm. That was precisely the reason that the major forces were vying endlessly for the Mirage Sphere. No one hoped for their enemies to get something that was powerful enough to be a deciding factor of a battle's outcome. Flick, why don't you buy it, then? Surely you can afford it, right? Connorus couldn't help but ask Lin Li again after figuring it out. The Tower of Dusk had now developed to the point of being an extremely powerful force, and if they fought at full strength, they might not be inferior to the sea clans or human kingdoms. Hence, if Lin Li could get hold of the Mirage Sphere, he would definitely be able to increase the strength of the Tower of Dusk by another notch. What can I use that thing for? I'm just the president of a guild of magic. I don't plan to unify and rule Anral, Lin Li said half-jokingly. Of course, that was also a fact because Lin Li's top considerations at the moment were, 1. To search for the immortal king and get a clear idea of the mysteries of his transmigration to this world, and 2. To think of ways to deal with the great calamity that Garesco had predicted. Hence, given the level of battles that Lin Li would likely face, the Mirage Sphere wouldn't be of much use to him. On the other hand, the Mage Legion of the Tower of Dusk had the magic net array that Garesco had left behind, as there was the Sky Castle, which was a powerful battle weapon. There was no need for an illusion-creating item like the Mirage Sphere at all. Besides, if Lin Li wanted to create illusions, he was fully capable of coming up with hundreds of ways to do so by putting his attainments and inscription to use. Moreover, the power of the illusions he could create using inscription would only be higher, if not simply equal to that of the Mirage Sphere. The power of the Mirage Sphere contained only a wisp of sanctuary-level power, but Lin Li's Mageths had already reached the point of containing some divine power. In that case, there was no reason for him to spend so much money on an item that wouldn't be of any use to him at all. However, while the Mirage Sphere might be useless to Lin Li, it boasted several benefits that would be of great use to the major sea clans and the human kingdoms. Perhaps one of their goals in participating in this auction was to clinch the Mirage Sphere, which could decide the outcome of a battle. After all, there probably wasn't another inscriber in Anral who had reached the terrifying level that Lin Li was at. 50 million gold coins. During the brief period of time that Lin Li spent talking to Connorus, several bids had been placed, and at this point, Prince Jonathan of the Felon Kingdom had even called a bid of 50 million gold coins. As he called his bid, everyone in the hall immediately fell silent, and all that could be heard was the heavy breathing of the people present. 50,000,000 gold coins for a single item was a staggering price that had rarely appeared even during the past auctions of the sea market over the years. For a kingdom, 50 million gold coins was a few years' worth of tax revenue, and a kingdom without a large pool of financial reserves would probably go bankrupt after spending so much money in one go. Damn it, 50 million gold coins. Is the Felon Kingdom ready to go bankrupt? Greeno of the Giant Shark Clan exclaimed while breathing heavily and panting. Even for the Giant Shark Clan, 50 million gold coins was a massive figure. Furthermore, he had come to the auction this time with the intention to buy more than just the Mirage Sphere. In fact, 50 million gold coins was supposedly also a rather large sum for the Felon Kingdom, but after they'd overthrown the High Elves, they had reaped plenty of benefits from them. Although the Supreme Council had the largest slice of the pie, the Felon Kingdom had received a large share of it too, especially in terms of money, which generally referred to gold coins and gemstones. Since those things were not of much use to the Supreme Council, most of them were given to the Felon Kingdom. Hence, 50 million gold coins was just peanuts to them now. Of course, the Felon Kingdom was not the only wealthy kingdom. The Leaden Kingdom and Rotterdam Kingdom, as well as several other sea clans, would all have no issue with coming up with 50 million gold coins. However, at this point, they also had no choice but to choose between 50 million gold coins and the Mirage Sphere. Prince Tori of the Rotterdam Kingdom let out a long sigh and decided to give up on bidding. Prince Jeremiah of the Leaden Kingdom hesitated for a long time, but in the end, he nevertheless shook his head and put down the bidding sign that he was holding. Greeno of the Giant Shark Clan had already crushed the wine glass he was holding into pieces with his hand, but he still hadn't placed a higher bid. 51 million gold coins, said Manson, the prince of the Thunder Eel Clan, who tried his luck by raising the price by 1 million gold coins. An auction wasn't a simple competition of who had more money. Instead, It also involved psychological warfare and mind games, where lots of strategic thinking was involved when making purchases. There were more than just one or two superb items to be sold at the auction. No matter how wealthy one might be, they couldn't possibly buy all the good items. Besides, there was a stiff competition going on, and the price wasn't fixed, but entirely dependent on the bidders. Hence, it wasn't a wise choice to blow all of one's money on a single item, unless they weren't planning to buy anything else later on in the auction. The price of 51 million gold coins that Manson offered had already exceeded the amount of money that the Thunder Eel clan had planned to spend on the Mirage Sphere. An extra million might not affect their plan much, but if the Felon Kingdom continued to increase the bid, they would have no choice but to give up. Manson refused to give up. After all, the power of the Mirage Sphere was still very important for the Thunder Eel clan. Although their clan was powerful, they had a fatal flaw. They would have a hard time retaliating once their battle formation was breached. If they could have the protection of the illusions created by the Mirage Sphere, their mages would enjoy an additional layer of protection. Even if the giant shark knights invaded their battle formation, they could still deal with it with ease. 51 million gold coins. Is there anyone else who would like to offer a higher price? 51,000,000 gold coins. Going once, Grand Duke Viti said as he looked around the venue. Seeing that there was complete silence, he began to prepare to close the bid. However, before Grand Duke Viti could call the second time, a voice came out from the private room where the people of the Felon Kingdom were in, causing a huge uproar in the venue again. 53 million gold coins. Prince Jonathan's voice filled the air in the auction hall and immediately caused an uproar, just like a boulder thrown into water. Although he had only increased the bid price by another 2 million gold coins, it showed his strong determination to get hold of the Mirage Sphere. From this point alone, the crowd could already predict that Jonathan would more likely than not continue to bid for it if someone placed a higher bid. Manson of the Thunder Eel clan was shaking his head slightly, thinking to himself that he had no choice but to give up the Mirage Sphere. Although the Mirage Sphere would be very useful to the Thunder Eel clan, it wasn't attractive enough for him to want to put everything he had on the line just to acquire it. However, the Felon Kingdom was obviously bent on seizing it. If they continued to bid against each other, the price might exceed 60 or even 70 million gold coins, which wouldn't be cost-effective, and might even be a huge loss. After calling thrice, Grand Duke Viti lowered the wooden hammer in his hand with a loud thud to complete the auction for the exorbitantly expensive Mirage Sphere. Everyone watched with regret and other complex emotions in their eyes as the staff of the auction carried the massive Mirage Sphere away. They could imagine that the Mirage Sphere would soon belong to the Felon Kingdom. However, for the many sea clans, it wasn't too terrible of a thing that the Felon Kingdom had won the auction for the Mirage Sphere. After all, the Felon Kingdom was not only a continental country, but also a kingdom with no forces at sea. Even if they had a powerful weapon like the Mirage Sphere, it wouldn't have much of an impact on the sea clans. The only ones who had to worry about the rise in the Felon Kingdom's power were the Leaden Kingdom and the Rotterdam Kingdom, especially since there had always been a major conflict between the Felon Kingdom and the Leaden Kingdom. God knew when the two kingdoms would go to war. Although Prince Jeremiah was a spoiled noble, he could still think of the issues that would entail. Hence, he regretted not making up his mind to try bidding for the Mirage Sphere. The Mirage Sphere was delivered away from the stage for the handover to be completed, while the auction continued to proceed under Grand Duke Viti's presidency. At this time, there was a knock on the door of the private room that Lin Li was in. After gaining Lin Li's permission, Prince Jonathan walked in with two followers by his side. Prince Jonathan, congratulations on winning the Mirage Sphere and having your wishes fulfilled, Lin Li said with a smile as he stood up and motioned Prince Jonathan to take his seat. However, Prince Jonathan's face did not seem to be elated. After taking his seat, Jonathan said, "President Fulik, I know your character, so I won't beat around the bush. I came here this time because I have a favor to ask of you." Although Prince Jonathan didn't have much contact with Lin Li, they were both still from Manhwa, after all, and he had a good understanding of Lin Li's character. Hence, after he entered, he didn't bother saying any pleasantries, and simply cut straight to the chase about his purpose of visit. "You're being too polite, Prince Jonathan. We've been cooperating closely, and you're making us seem distant by saying that. Feel free to let me know what I can help you with. If it's within my means, I will naturally not decline," Lin Li said. He wasn't being polite. The Tower of Dusk and the Felon Kingdom had long been in a business relationship, where the Felon Kingdom was one of the major customers of the Tower of Dusk for potions, weapons, and equipment. Although they weren't on extremely good terms, there at least hadn't been any obvious conflicts between them. "Well, President Fulik, I'm sure you're aware that we've just bought the Mirage Sphere. In fact, this was one of my main goals when I decided to participate in this auction. However, I still need to pair the Mirage Sphere with some special maggots in order to fully exert its power, otherwise this thing will only be a decorative ornament. President Falik, since you're now the fourth arbitrator of the Supreme Council, I'd like to seek your help in inviting a few masters of inscription from the Supreme Council. Prince Jonathan didn't know how incredible Lin Li's attainments in inscription were, so he just hoped that Lin Li could use his status as an arbitrator to help them invite a few masters of inscription from the Supreme Council. Oh, Lin Li froze for a moment before saying with a smile, Prince Jonathan, you should know that I've only recently become the fourth arbitrator, and given the characters of the masters of inscription, I doubt they'd do me the favor. However, I'll take note of this and ask them for help, but if they do not wish to grant me the request, I can't force them to do anything. Please don't carry high hopes. Lin Li wasn't lying, because inscribers held extremely high status in Anral. If mages were compared to the class of nobles, inscribers would be the nobles of the nobles. In the Supreme Council, inscribers similarly enjoyed extremely high status, and even Andorn, the chairman of the Supreme Council, might not be able to demand that the elderly inscribers comply. Although they might not necessarily disobey the three arbitrators, the inscribers might not be willing to obey the commands of Lin Li, the newly minted fourth arbitrator. Prince Jonathan naturally understood the rules, hence, he wasn't disappointed by Lin Li's vague answer. However, he believed that Lin Li's words should hold some weight because he was still the fourth arbitrator, no matter what. Besides, he wouldn't freeload off of the inscribers, either. He just needed a middleman to help him contact them. Seeing that Lin Li agreed to his request, Prince Jonathan was sensible enough not to impose on him any further as he stood up to leave the private room. After Prince Jonathan left, Conoris burst into laughter, and mockingly said, he asked you to help him engage the help of the inscribers. But little does he know that a guru of inscription was actually seated right in front of him. So, what do you plan to do? Are you going to help him yourself? Or are you really going to let those few mediocre inscribers of the Supreme Council help him? If those masters of inscription of the Supreme Council were to find out that they had been called mediocre, they would probably fly into a rage and leave. For instance, Master Moke, who drew maggots for the Tower of Dusk back then, was incredibly arrogant, and had his nose high up in the air. If Lin Li hadn't revealed some of his abilities, Master Moke would have probably still been unaware of where he stood compared to Lin Li. I'll think about it when the time comes. Anyway, he just wants to stimulate the power of the Mirage Sphere. That doesn't require an overly complicated maggoth. Those few inscribers of the Supreme Council should be able to cope with it, Lin Li said nonchalantly. It wasn't that he didn't want to help Jonathan, but, after all, the friendship between the Felon Kingdom and the Tower of Dusk wasn't that strong. Besides, Jonathan might not believe Lin Li if the latter said that he could draw him a maggoth. Hence, there was no point in wasting his effort on doing that. After Lin Li had some small talk with Conoris, another auction item was brought to the stage, and Grand Duke Viti reached out to remove the red cloth, unveiling the painting beneath it. This time, the people present were a little puzzled. Although this piece of art also had the ability to make others comprehend laws, the comparative effect didn't seem obvious, so it was clearly not worthy of being at such an auction. This painting is a gift to the Gilded Kingdom by the Octopus Clan, and was also created by Heldanos, the legendary master of the Octopus Clan. In fact, even Grand Duke Viti himself couldn't comprehend why Bradler and the others had decided to put this item up for auction, which he felt was absurd. Not to mention the strain that doing so might put on the diplomatic ties with the Octopus Clan. The value of the painting alone wasn't enough to fetch a high price at the auction. However, doubts were doubts, and Grand Duke Viti didn't forget what his duties were. He first praised the painting endlessly before bringing up the friendship between the Gilded Kingdom and the Octopus Clan according to Monterey's instructions, lest the Octopus Clan thought too much about it. In the end, Grand Duke Viti announced the official start of the bidding for the painting of the Sunset at Sea that was created by Heldanos with a starting price of 1 million gold coins. However, unlike the other auction items, which many of the guests had gotten into a frenzy for right after the bidding began, no one started bidding for this one. This time, there was complete silence, and it seemed possible to hear the sound of a pin drop. 1 million gold coins was indeed not a large sum of money to the people participating in the auction. Even the ones who had the least financial power probably wouldn't take the sum of 1 million gold coins seriously. However, no one would be willing to do such a silly thing as to spend 1 million gold coins on a painting. The people here had participated in the auction with the purpose of buying things that they really needed. As long as something was useful to them, they would definitely fight for it regardless of how high the price might be. However, they really couldn't think of anything they could use the painting for. Although the painting was significant, it was only so because others gave meaning to it. However, it was completely insignificant to the people at the auction. In that case, who would be willing to spend 1 million gold coins on something they didn't need? On the other hand, Lin Li, who was seated in the private room, seemed to have understood something. In fact, the reason for the Gilded Kingdom's actions was already very obvious. If Lin Li still couldn't tell by now, he wouldn't be worthy of being the longtime president of a guild of magic. Lin Li didn't place his bid immediately, not because he didn't want the painting, but because he didn't want others to know that he wanted it. Although Lin Li was not short of money, it would naturally be best if he could spend the least amount of money to get what he wanted. He was well aware that if he acted like he was bent on taking that painting home, the other participants of the auction would definitely start competing with him. At the very least, he knew that Greeno of the Giant Shark clan definitely wouldn't mind raising the price higher just so he could take revenge on Lin Li for snatching the dark gold magic dragon armor away from him just now. Grand Duke Vidi secretly resented Bradler for making him do it, but he had no choice but to talk about the positive attributes of the painting again and again. Although it was common for items to go unsold at an auction, such an occurrence at this auction would definitely greatly affect their reputation. However, a painting was a painting, and it couldn't be compared to more powerful items like the Mirage Sphere. Grand Duke Vidi racked his brains to think of ways to promote the painting on an artistic level. Even if he described it as the most precious artwork that no one in this world had ever seen before, he still couldn't change the fact that it was just a piece of art. It seems that this item is really going to go unsold this time. That would undoubtedly become a flaw of this auction, and it might even turn into a laughingstock, Grand Duke Vidi thought to himself helplessly. Faced with such a situation, Bradler and Monterey, who were in the Gilded Kingdom's private room, looked at each other in puzzlement. Didn't Fulik set his sights on this painting? Why hasn't he placed a bid for it yet now that it's up for auction? Did we get the wrong idea, or does he think 1 million gold coins is too high of a price? However, when Grand Duke Vidi was ready to announce that the item was going to go unsold, someone from the private room of the Octopus clan interjected, 2 million gold coins. No matter what, that painting was a gift from the Octopus clan to the Gilded Kingdom, and a masterpiece created by Heldanos, a legendary figure of the Octopus clan. If it ended up being unsold at this auction, the Octopus clan would definitely feel embarrassed too. Hence, when they saw that no one was bidding for it, they had no choice but to offer a price of 2 million gold coins themselves. Hearing the Octopus clan's offer, Grand Duke Vidi was somewhat relieved. Although there wasn't any frenzied bidding, it was good that the item at least didn't go unsold. 3 million gold coins. Lin Li finally placed his bid. 3,000,000 gold coins for a painting was quite an absurd price to others, but what Lin Li saw was not art, but the inscription knowledge that the painting contained. If it wasn't in the form of a painting but a journal, the guru of inscription Heldanos notes would probably be worth more than 30 million gold coins. Greeno of the Giant Shark clan was feeling a little bored at first, and he even wanted to see the reaction of the Octopus clan once the item was announced as unsold. To his surprise, the Octopus clan first offered to buy their own painting, and later on, Fulik of the Tower of Dusk placed a bid too. Now, Greeno was immediately interested too. Not to mention the previous feud that they had, the fact that Lin Li had snatched the dark gold magic dragon armor from him made him furious too. Now that he was aware of Lin Li's interest in the painting, of course Greeno had to create trouble for him. Although he didn't want the painting, nor did he know what the painting could do for him, he would be able to somewhat get back at Lin Li if he could raise the price high. With that thought in mind, Greeno raised the bidder sign in his hand high. However, Cantori, who was beside Greeno, quickly stopped him, and said, "Prince Greeno, don't you find this a little bizarre?" "Bizarre? What's so bizarre about this?" Greeno turned around and looked at Cantori. He smugly said, "Since he wants that painting, I'll make him spend 100 times more than he should for it. Otherwise, how can I vent the anger within me?" Cantori smiled and shook his head while glancing at the private room opposite theirs. He calmly said, "Prince Greeno, don't you think that it's really strange for a painting of such little value to appear at such a prestigious auction? There must be something fishy about this." "What, do you mean that he's trying to lure me to bid for it?" Greeno was not a fool, either. After getting Cantori's reminder, he immediately thought of such a possibility, and also thought of many other reasons. If Lin Li were to place his bid first, Greeno wouldn't mind making things hard for the former, but after hearing Cantori's reminder, he felt that there was some conspiracy involved. Greeno tapped his fingers on the desk a few times, and couldn't help but develop such thoughts. It was especially so because both Lin Li and the Octopus clan were not on good terms with him. Hence, he had no choice but to suspect if they were laying a trap for him. It was no wonder that Greeno would think that way because such occurrences were extremely common at auctions. A useless item would usually end up being sold at an extremely high price, because of competitive bidding between spiteful parties that were out to get at each other. Of course, it also involved psychological warfare. If one party was better at thinking, they could have the upper hand. However, Grina wasn't good at psychological warfare, so he looked at Kantori and asked, "Are you going to give up just like that?" "Give up? No. We can try testing them and decide what to do next based on their reaction. We might be able to feed them with their own medicine." Kantori had a strong feud with Lin Li too, hence, he naturally wasn't willing to give up such an opportunity, and he came up with that idea for Grina. 3,500,000 gold coins, Grina exclaimed as he decided to test the waters after a moment of hesitation. As soon as Grina finished speaking, Lin Li placed a higher bid again, 4,500,000 gold coins. He raised the price by another million gold coins, seemingly trying to get Grina into the mood for bidding higher. Lin Li raised the bid price by a million at a time, but Grina had merely increased it by 500,000 gold coins. How could the prideful Grina be willing to do such an embarrassing thing? If the price was increased by a million gold coins at a time, the price would soon exceed 10 million gold coins after just a few rounds. 10,000,000 gold coins might not be considered much to financially powerful figures like them, but in some situations, it might come in handy. Grina was about to raise his bid by another million gold coins, but just as he was about to raise the bidder sign in his hand, he lowered it again. Although he was impulsive, he wasn't a fool. Since he had long thought of the possibility that it might be a trap for him, how could he have not kept his guard up? Hence, he couldn't help but look at Kantori again to ask for his opinion. Kantori didn't say anything, and simply raised his hand and extended 2 fingers. Grina immediately figured out what he meant. Hence, he raised the bidder sign in his hand, and exclaimed, 6,500,000 gold coins. Kantori wanted Grina to raise the price by 2 million gold coins at once just to give Lin Li the false impression that they had fallen into his trap. However, it was just a painting, and there wasn't much they could leverage on. Hence, after calling his bid, Grina said, "It's okay, if he places another bid, we can stop." Grina didn't oppose Kantori's idea, since he didn't fall into the trap anyway. Making Lin Li pay 7,008 million gold coins, above what he could have bought it for, was also a means for him to vent his anger. As Kantori and Grina had expected, Lin Li, who was in the private room opposite theirs, raised the bidder in his hand again. However, this time he didn't raise the price by 2 million gold coins like he did previously, and instead just raised it by a million gold coins to 7,500,000. "Just as I thought." "Stop here, Grina," Kantori said while clapping his hands. The rhythm of the increment of 1 million gold coins was completely different from that of 2 million gold coins, and there was a very subtle psychological reaction involved. He was now certain that Lin Li was trying to use the painting to lay a trap for Grina, so there was no longer a need for him to do anything else. Grina trusted Kantori's competency in mind games that involved schemes and tricks. In the eyes of the Sea clans, humans were extremely cunning. Hence, Grina didn't oppose Kantori's analysis and judgment. Instead, he returned to his seat and tossed the bidder sign onto the table with a smile. "Haha, this feels awesome. Let's see how full it can continue pretending. I bet he can't cry even if he wants to now." Kantori had schemed against Lin Li several times, but he had never gotten the upper hand. This time, it was definitely an unforgettable experience for Kantori. If he didn't have to continue staying for the auction, he would go outside to drink to his heart's content in order to celebrate. Grand Duke Viti, who was on the stage below, finally lowered the hammer and confirmed the validity of this successful auction. He announced, "We don't have any higher bidders. This painting, Sunset at Sea, which was created by Heldanos, will go to President Flick of the Tower of Dusk." All of a sudden, the people in the auction hall cast their gazes at the private room that Lin Li was in. No matter what, they couldn't figure out why anyone would be willing to spend more than 7 million gold coins on a painting. Perhaps everyone had already perceived Lin Li as a lunatic at this point. However, Lin Li, who got the painting, couldn't even care less about that. The painting contained the notes left by a guru of inscription who was on par with him. Even if he had spent 70 million gold coins on it, he would have thought that it had been worth every gold coin of his because it was a treasure in his opinion. At this time, the door of the private room was knocked on again. Prince Monterey personally delivered the painting to Lin Li. After completing the handover, Monterey didn't leave immediately, and instead asked President Flick, "The painting belongs to you now, but I'm very curious about something. If you don't mind, can you tell me what is so special about this painting that you're so attracted to it?" There were rumors that Lin Li had bought the painting because his plan to scheme against Grina had backfired. However, Monterey knew that Lin Li had been interested in the painting since a long time ago, hence, he naturally wouldn't believe the rumors. Lin Li did not hide his intentions. After putting the painting away, he said to Prince ManhwaRecap. Actually, I have you to thank, Prince ManhwaRecap. This painting is actually of no use to ordinary people, but I managed to see some knowledge related to inscription when I saw it in the exhibition hall previously. This painting is like the inscription notes belonging to Heldanos, as it contains all of his experiences and knowledge in the field of inscription. However, these things can't be seen by ordinary people. Although Lin Li was telling the truth, Prince ManhwaRecap didn't really believe it. It seemed ridiculous to him that a painting would contain any knowledge in inscription. If it had really been that amazing, the Octopus clan members, who were experts in the field of inscription, wouldn't have given the painting to the Gilded Kingdom as a gift. However, after all that Lin Li had said, Prince ManhwaRecap couldn't possibly probe any further. Hence, he merely shook his head and said, "Congratulations, President Felix. The auction hasn't ended yet, and I shall not impose on you further." Although Prince ManhwaRecap didn't deliberately try to spread what Lin Li said, many people nevertheless caught wind of Lin Li's explanation. However, in their opinion, Lin Li was just making it up to save himself from the embarrassment. Haha, that guy is probably vomiting blood right now. Trust him to come up with such a far-fetched explanation. Grina and Cantori had both heard his explanation, but they thought that Lin Li was just making things up like the others. Besides, this just added on to the proof that their previous speculation about the backfiring of Lin Li's plan to scheme against Grina. It was an extremely humiliating thing for Lin Li, so it was no wonder that he would come up with such an excuse, or so they thought. The tiny uproar drew the attention of everyone at the venue, so much so that they were all getting distracted from the auction. When the next few items were being auctioned, it didn't arouse any frenzied bidding or intense competition, which made Grand Duke Viti a little frustrated. However, a manager of the auction suddenly dashed onto the stage and whispered something into Grand Duke Viti's ear. No one knew what he said, but they saw Viti frowning before appearing flabbergasted. In the end, his expression turned sullen. Finally, Grand Duke Viti gave his subordinate some instructions and waved his hand to gesture for him to leave the stage. He then proceeded with the auction. Soon, another auction item was brought to the stage, which immediately drew the attention of the crowd at the auction. However, the auction item seemed rather inconspicuous on the surface. In fact, it could even be considered ugly. It was a magic staff that was grayish-yellow in color, and its exterior was not straight. Instead, it looked like a withered branch. Based on the appearance of the staff, no one could see what it was actually made of. The material was neither metal nor wood, and there were no gemstones inlaid in it either. One end was thick, while the other was thin. Most of you will probably find this staff peculiar, and you might even wonder, how can such a thing be called a staff? Grand Duke Viti picked up the ugly staff, showed it to the crowd with a tone of mockery, and then continued, "However, I will mention a name that perhaps won't be unheard of to all of you, and that is Mokagerio." Indeed, as Grand Duke Viti said, all the people present got into an uproar after hearing Mokagerio's name, disrupting the initial peace of the venue. Mokagerio was a famous sanctuary master among the sea clans, but his fame was not entirely because of his strength. After all, he was not the only sanctuary powerhouse among the sea clans. An important reason for his fame was actually because he was from the Gobiad clan, which had an extremely short lifespan of only 30-odd years on average. Even at the legendary realm, the Gobiad clan's lifespan would only be extended to 100 years. It was almost impossible for any of them to break through to the sanctuary realm within such a short period of time. However, Mokagerio was definitely an anomaly in the Gobiad clan. First of all, he was definitely a genius, as he managed to reach the legendary realm at the young age of 15, which was definitely an amazing feat that would make him worthy of being considered a genius in the entire Endless Ocean. However, even if the people of the Gobiad clan reached the legendary realm, they would still only have a life expectancy of less than 100 years. If they wanted to use those few decades to break through to the sanctuary realm, it would be impossible unless they were like Lin Li. However, there was probably no one in this world who would be as absurdly competent as Lin Li. It was the same for Mokagerio. According to records, even when he reached the age of 90-something, he still didn't see any signs of a breakthrough to the sanctuary realm, and it was as if there was nothing else he could do except wait for the day of his death to arrive. However, to everyone's surprise, Mokagerio, who still hadn't reached the sanctuary realm when he was almost 100 years old, didn't get taken away by the Reaper when he reached a full 100 years of age, unlike his fellow clansmen. Instead, he continued studying the ways to break through to the sanctuary realm. Mokagerio finally broke through to the sanctuary realm at the age of 200, thus becoming the first ever sanctuary master of the Gobiad clan. No one knew how many years the lifespan of the Gobiad clan, which had short life expectancy, would be extended by after they reached the sanctuary realm. All they knew was that ManhwaRecap lived for more than 10,000 years before vanishing. Hence, the Gobiad clan, and many other sea clans with short lifespans, were all dying to know how ManhwaRecap had managed to break free from the shackles of a short life expectancy. I think you have already thought of something. Yes, this coral staff is the one that ManhwaRecap has been using since he was a child, and did not replace it even after he broke through to the sanctuary realm. We have already verified the authenticity of this coral staff with the help of a few dozen authenticators. Now, we will begin the auction of this coral staff. The starting bid is 5 million gold coins. After giving the introduction, Grand Duke Viti placed the coral staff on the shelf on the table, and everything was displayed clearly on a huge projection that appeared on the curtain behind. As it was a staff used by a sanctuary powerhouse, the power of the coral staff was actually not considered great. Hence, many weren't that enthusiastic about this staff. However, the Gobiad clan was not the only sea clan with a short lifespan, it was just that the rest had it better than them. 4 sea clans with short lifespans like them, the power of the staff was not important. The key was that the coral staff might contain the secrets of ManhwaRecap's method of breaking free from the shackles of their lifespans. Hence, after Grand Duke Viti announced the start of the auction, the sea clans with inherently shorter life expectancy began competing for the coral staff zealously. The secret to longevity, or even immortality, was not attractive only to the species with shorter life expectancies. Even those whose lives were longer hoped to master the secret of immortality. Although the minimum bid increment stated in the rules of the auction was only 200,000 gold coins, the price of the coral staff was still soaring upward by 1 million gold coins at a time. However, even so, not many people gave up, and it seemed that many people treated the coral staff as their most important goal in this auction. In fact, humans were actually also considered a species with relatively low life expectancy, with the norm being only 60-70 years for most ordinary people. However, humans had great potential for development, and once they broke through to the legendary realm, they would have their life expectancy increased by thousands of years. Once they reached the sanctuary realm, their lifespan could almost be considered infinite, even though they could not necessarily be considered to have achieved immortality. Hence, during the competitive bidding for the coral staff, many large forces and clans chose to remain seated and watch the intense competition instead of joining the bidding. With the fluctuating increment between bids, the price of the coral staff soared and gradually exceeded the 10 million gold coin benchmark. In the blink of an eye, the price was about to break through the 60 million gold coin mark, making this round of bidding even crazier than that for the Mirage Sphere previously. However, as the price exceeded 60 million gold coins, some weaker forces finally had no choice but to give up, causing the bidding to cool down a little. On behalf of the Sea Serpent clan, I'm placing a bid of 63 million gold coins. Falth, the prince of the Sea Serpent clan, suddenly exclaimed. He even reported the clan that he was from. Clearly, Falth was not just bidding for the item, but also issuing some sort of a threat. Among the 7 overlords of the endless ocean, the sea serpents had the shortest life expectancy of about only 300 years on average. Hence, the Sea Serpent clan was bent on obtaining the coral staff. As expected, after Falth placed his bid, many people who participated in the bidding showed a drastic change in expression. After all, the Sea Serpent clan was one of the 7 overlords of the ocean, whose power and strength was far beyond what the other weaker sea clans could compare to. In particular, the Sea Serpent clan was known to be the most vicious and insidious among the 7 overlords. If they were provoked, they would really be capable of doing anything. Besides, it could be seen from Falth's bid that the price of the coral staff was probably reaching the maximum of his budget. The desolate sea where the Sea Serpent clan resided was not abundant in sea specialties and resources. Although those tens of millions of gold coins were not exactly going to put a dent in their bank, they would obviously save as much as possible. However, the temptation of the secret to immortality was clearly great enough to make the others ignore the threat of the Sea Serpent clan. Soon after Falth called his bid, an extremely abrupt voice sounded in the venue. 15 million gold coins. Everyone immediately turned to look in the direction that the voice came from, only to see a peculiar-looking sea clansman raising the bidder sign with shaky hands. That sea clansman was relatively short, with a stature of only about 1.2 to 1.3 meters, and he seemed to be a goblin of the sea. He was wearing a hat made of a colorful conch, and a fist-sized golden conch hanging on his neck. Although Lin Li was seated in the private room on the 2nd floor, he happened to be able to see that strange-looking sea clansman. He carefully tried to recall the memories he had of the sea clan, and finally remembered some information about them with painstaking effort. It was obvious how insignificant they were among the many sea clans of the ocean. Despite the threat of the sea serpent clan, that short sea clan person was still insisting on bidding for the coral staff. In fact, the sea clan that he came from had quite a flashy name, the Bellerophon clan. However, among the many sea clans, the Bellerophon clan was definitely ranked at the bottom in terms of strength. Not to mention the 7 overlords of the ocean, they were in fact far inferior even to the Gobiad clan. The Bellerophon clan had close to 0 combat power, and while they could pick up magic, they lacked talent. Even the so-called geniuses of their clans were only at the standards of level 10 mages. They could learn martial arts, but their achievements would be stunted by their petite bodies. However, the Bellerophons had an innate talent, and that was their ability to enhance the physical traits of their own clan through the sound waves of their conch, such as giving them ardor, courage, tenacity, etc. It could be said that Bellerophons were born to be a support-type clan that had to be attached to a powerful force. Just like the other symbiotic creatures in the ocean, logically speaking, a purely support-type clan as such should be very popular with other sea clans like the Giant Shark clan, which, although they had very powerful giant shark knights, would gain a great boost in their combat power if they were complemented with a support-type clan like the Bellerophons, who would augment their abilities and power. In fact, it was said that during the era of the Ocean Dynasty, the Bellerophons had quite a high status, and they were present in many major legions. Unfortunately, during the tumultuous period of the Ocean War, the Bellerophons would become the enemy's priority target, regardless of which side they fought alongside on the battlefield. During the Ocean Dynasty era, the coordination and cooperation of soldiers of a large variety of clans were very important. Hence, there were also teams that specialized in protecting the Bellerophons on the battlefield. However, the Ocean War was a war between clans, where all cavalry and infantry troops, as well as archers, joined the fight in a chaotic manner. Thus, protecting the Bellerophons was no longer a priority. By the end of the Ocean War, the talented Bellerophons were almost fully annihilated, and there wasn't even a single legendary level powerhouse left among them. Besides, due to the fall of the clan, the Bellerophons didn't gain any benefits after the war. Without the support of abundant resources, they couldn't nurture any outstanding talents, thus resulting in a vicious cycle. Currently, the Bellerophons had already lost their value in the eyes of the major sea clans, and no one would bother to rope them in, because they wouldn't be able to provide much help to them. Hence, just like the other weaker sea clans, the Bellerophons could only occupy a small, barren area of the sea while struggling to keep their clan from going extinct. Their only other source of income, which was considered paltry, was generated through being employed by some other smaller forces. After all, for those smaller forces, any increase in combat power would be good enough, even if it was only a little bit. The average life expectancy of a Bellerophon was about 40 to 50 years. However, they would require at least 100 years to reach the legendary realm. Among the sea clans, they were considered a standard species with a short lifespan. Without any outstanding geniuses and long life expectancy, the Bellerophons were actually already on the brink of extinction at this point, as they were truly struggling to survive. However, no one could decide if a genius emerged among them or not. Hence, the Bellerophons had no choice but to pin their hopes on prolonging their lives. In fact, the powerful clans didn't exactly rise because of their geniuses. Perhaps, there were other clans that had the same level of innate talent as them, but enjoyed longer lifespans. Hence, it wasn't strange for them to have members that had reached the legendary realm. For the Bellerophons, it was simply impossible because they wouldn't live long enough to reach the legendary realm in 100 years. Hence, life expectancy was a huge problem that plagued many species with shorter lifespans, as it was a crucial factor that hindered their development. For example, the high elves would break through to the legendary realm upon reaching adulthood, and those who had reached the sanctuary realm were not rare either. Hence, they were the self-proclaimed descendants of gods and the most perfect race. However, the high elves had life expectancy of 1,000 years and above. Unlike humans, if humans could all live for such a long time, they might not necessarily be inferior to the high elves. The same went for the Bellerophons. With an average life expectancy of only 40 to 50 years, no one except extremely rare geniuses would be able to break through to the legendary realm within their lifetime. Besides, doing so would also require a large amount of resources and support. Back in the era of the Ocean Dynasty, the Seahorse clan valued the Bellerophons for their abilities, and all it took was a single order for them to gather a large amount of legendary level resources to allocate to the Bellerophons. However, in the current age, all sea clans would keep their resources for their own use. Who would bother wasting their precious resources on the Bellerophons? Lin Li thought about the Bellerophons, and realized that he was rather interested in their talent of blowing the conch, and would love to interact with the Bellerophons if he had the chance. He even had thoughts of hiring some of them just to know them better. Lin Li had been observing the auction for a while. He knew that while the coral staff was a weapon that belonged to sanctuary powerhouses, it was lacking as compared to his Helios scepter. He was also not interested to know the secrets of immortality, as he saw no practical use for them. Yet, the Bellerophon quoted the price of 65 million gold coins, and although his voice was not loud, it generated a racket within the conference hall. That was because people were not only astonished by the hefty price the Bellerophons were willing to pay, but also shocked by the boldness of the Bellerophons to challenge the sea serpents. Falth from the sea serpent race was extremely furious. He seemed like he could flip the table at any point now. If he had not remembered where he was, he would have sprung out of his seat to tear the midget from the Bellerophon race into pieces. However, knowing that it was the setting of an auction event, Falth continued to stay as civilized as possible. He was just like Greena from the Giant Shark clan, who had to admit his loss when their dragon armor was snatched earlier. Sure, Falth muttered in agreement. Then, he raised the sign in his hand, and gritted his teeth. 70 million gold coins, said Falth. Unlike the Bellerophons, Falth had already reserved many items at the auction, and spent tens of millions of gold coins. Moreover, this was not the only auction in the sea market. While there had been lots of quality items from the beginning, it did not mean that there wouldn't be better things at the end. Hence, one could say that Falth used his last 70 million gold coins. If not, he would have talked less and displayed his wealth by quoting a larger sum. There was an uproar after Falth quoted his price. To them, it wasn't about how much a person could afford. It was about whether one might be spending it in a worthy manner. They definitely thought that 70 million gold coins was an exaggeration for the purchase of an immortal secret that might not even exist. 72 million gold coins, someone said in a very decisive tone. It was definitely not expected of the Bellerophon, who was still trembling and hesitant when he raised his name plate. It was obvious that he had decided to go to the extreme. Since he had already offended the spiteful sea serpents, he did not intend to call it quits right now. Furthermore, that coral staff and its secrets concerned the fate of the entire Bellerophon. This had to be the moment he was waiting for. Palm! Falth slammed his hand into the glass cup, and shattered the cup that was placed on the table. He coldly glanced at that dwarf-like Bellerophon below him, and was skeptical that such an unsightly race could have so much money. He could not help but wonder why they'd still live such pitiful lives for the thousands of years, if they had such a great amount of wealth. Falth had considered letting the Bellerophons win the auction and rob them after, but he wasn't certain that there wouldn't be other people with similar intentions. He was also worried that he would lose the opportunity to do that if the Bellerophons continued staying in Gilded Kingdom after they acquired the coral staff. The coral staff was particularly important to the sea serpents. Falth would not want to take the risk of losing it if he could. Hence, he thought that the most assuring way was to acquire it himself by legal means. This helped to boost Falth's determination. 50 million gold coins, and 10 legendary magical crystals, said Falth as he raised the sign in his hands, and turned to face the auction table. Crystals of the legendary level could easily cost up to tens of millions of gold coins. They usually weren't something that could be bought with money. Yet, such crystals would definitely need to have a price if they were to be offered at an auction. Of course, this was not an uncommon sight at auctions. Just like pawning, one would have to offer their magical crystal at a much lower price at an auction if they could not offer immediate cash. Auction was a race against time. Soon, the auctioneer gave an estimate of the value of the crystals. After all, the crystals were different in their standards. There were crystals as low as level 21 to crystals as level 24. The value the auctioneer estimated for the 10 legendary magical crystals was 35 million gold coins. This value was definitely very low. It meant that on average, one legendary magical crystal would only cost 3,500,000 gold coins. While he would be able to sell the crystals for a higher price in the market, Falth had no other choice here. The auction would not wait for him. Hundreds of millions of gold coins would not be able to change the outcome of the auction after the 3 knocks of the hammer. The price of the item had already reached 85 million gold coins. The moment Falth offered 50 million gold coins as well, it had surpassed the price offered by the Bellerophons by tens of millions of gold coins. Falth was growing anxious. Oh, one more sanctuary level magic crystal. Falth had originally thought that the item would be his to take away. He did not expect the person from the Bellerophon clan to raise his sign after him. Sanctuary level magic crystals were absolutely priceless treasures. It would be no exaggeration to say that hundreds and thousands of legendary magic crystals would not have matched up to the value of one sanctuary-level magic crystal. Although this sanctuary-level magic crystal was at the beginning of the sanctuary level, the energy within it was certainly not within the reach of any legendary-level crystal. Hence, the value of a sanctuary-level magic crystal was not to be determined by the amount of mana it encompassed. What was more important was the unique knowledge about the sanctuary realm it contained. One would be abusing the gift of God if he were to use a sanctuary-level magic crystal as the source of mana. As long as mages meditated around a sanctuary-level magic crystal, they would recover 100 times faster and enhance their abilities by 100 times. The laws within sanctuary-level magic crystals were like guiding lamps that would allow anyone who managed to gain any amount of enlightenment to reap great benefits. A sanctuary-level magic crystal was like an inexhaustible treasure. The 70 million gold coins from the Bellerophon alone were definitely nothing compared to it. Although the Endless Sea was rich in resources, sanctuary-level magic crystals were extremely rarely found there. After all, magical marine creatures of the sea were considered divine existences. They were not easy to deal with. Moreover, even if one were to have the ability to defeat sanctuary-level marine beasts, they might not even find them as easily as they wanted. The endless ocean was not Garesco's meditation ground. He wouldn't nurture that many sanctuary-level beasts for the people of the sea to hunt them. Although the 7 great masters of the sea had split many benefits during the Ocean Dynasty, and might have collected sanctuary-level magic crystals, it would be impossible for them to use the crystals for other matters. What surprised the crowd was who the owner of the sanctuary-level magic crystal was. As the Bellerophons were an incredibly weak force among the sea clans, no one would ever believe they would have the ability to defeat a sanctuary-level magical beast. Their abilities would not even allow them to slay legendary-level magical beasts. Another possibility surfaced in the minds of these people. Since it was impossible for the Bellerophons to kill a sanctuary-level marine beast in the endless ocean, their sanctuary-level magic crystal had to have been passed down from the previous dynasty. Although the standing of the Bellerophon was rather low among the other forces at the endless ocean, they had been once even more formidable than the 7 overlords under the past dynasty. No matter what, it was a fact that the Bellerophons had taken out the sanctuary-level magic crystal in exchange for the coral staff. The audience was now eagerly awaiting the response from the sea serpents. Falth from the sea serpents became extremely troubled when he heard what the Bellerophons offered. He knew that the sea serpents had one sanctuary-level magic crystal that was employed in their desolate sea palace. He neither had the power nor the time to retrieve that sanctuary-level magic crystal. However, seems like I would have to think about another plan, but it's great that the staff has only fallen into the hands of such an insignificant race. This thought managed to calm Falth's frustration down greatly. He threw the sign in his hands away and plopped back into his seat. Now, the only thing Falth was thankful for was whom the coral staff ended up with. He was confident that he would be able to use a little trick to snatch the coral staff from the Bellerophons. If it was with the other powerful forces or their close allies, the sea serpents would definitely not be able to do anything about it. The sea serpents were not the only ones who had decided to take a back seat in the auction now. No other forces had the capability to rival the value of a sanctuary-level magic crystal. They all shook their heads in resignation. Of course, some of them perhaps had the same thought as Falth. Then, it would depend on the fastest fingers. Auctioneer Vidi asked for more offers according to the auction script thrice. He did not try to hype up any hearts in the middle now. That was because he knew that no one would ever pay a price higher than a sanctuary-level magic crystal. Of course, he was extremely satisfied that the coral staff could be raised to such a price in the auction. After warning 3 times, the hammer in Vidi's hand landed hard on the table. The deal is set. The ultimate buyer of this coral staff is Patriarch Molex from the Bellerophon clan, he announced loudly. Vidi's announcement invited some scattered applause among the audience. To be honest, none of them thought that it was something to be celebrated. They knew that they wouldn't be the only ones who would target the Bellerophons after this auction. Patriarch Molex from the Bellerophon clan did not show any expression when he heard Vidi's words. He returned to his seat quietly, as though he was unaffected by the discussions and gazes around him. He only appeared to return to earth when the management from the auction approached him to confirm the deal. Molex was seen trembling when he handed the sanctuary-level magic crystal in exchange for the coral staff, which he later clutched tightly in his arms. Instead of taking his leave immediately after acquiring the coral staff, Molex returned to his seat and closed his eyes. He muttered something under his breath while he gently rubbed his hands on the coral staff. In fact, the deal was not a loss for the Bellerophons. Magical crystals at the sanctuary realm were of no use to them. Their lifespan was the biggest constraint to their development. They would not have been able to surpass the legendary realm within 30 to 40 years even if they had the sanctuary-level magic crystal. Since it was useless holding on to it, Why would they not use it to exchange for some hope? Falf from the Sea Serpent clan gritted his teeth when he saw Molix embracing the coral staff. After trying really hard to suppress his rage, he turned to one of his men to whisper a few words before dismissing him. What's coming next is another mysterious piece of art. Let's invite the piece up the stage, announced Vidi enthusiastically after the hustling crowd calmed down. With that, a cubical box was carried up the stage. The box was not big, it was around 1 meter in dimension, yet it took 4 men to carry it. Everyone could see how the structure that supported the weight of the box bent. It was as if they were carrying a mountain. After placing the box on the stage, the 4 men got down the stage. Auctioneer Vidi paced towards the box and laid his hand on the red cloth that covered the box. Guys, get your number plates ready. You are about to see something great, he announced as he gazed at the audience. With that, he grabbed and pulled the red cloth off the box. Everyone could see a cubical box underneath it. The box was made of crystal and seemed to have extremely thick walls. The actual space within it was only the size of a human head. In it, there was an irregularly shaped black object. While it seemed like a piece of coal, there was something blood red in its core, and it also emitted a faint golden glow. What is this? Everyone became really confused when they saw the item being auctioned. No one had a clue what it was. It looked like neither a magical crystal nor a magical gemstone. Even Lin Li, who claimed to be extremely knowledgeable, could not help but frown in puzzlement upon seeing the item. Although it had been contained in a crystal box, Lin Li's formidable mental strength helped him detect some unusual waves within the box. He could sense that there were not only elements of evilness and filthiness, but also elements of holiness that were emitted by the item inside. It was a very strange feeling. However, while Auctioneer Vidi wanted to create suspense, he would not want to keep the audience guessing. After all, it was an auction, and not a show. The audience's expressions put a smile on Vidi's face. Everybody, I'm sure you're all wondering about this item. This means that I would have to share about its origin, and a disaster in the history of the Endless Sea. He started as he rested his hand on the crystal box. Vidi's words did not wash the look of wonder from the people's faces. That was because there were just too many different kinds of disasters that happened in the Endless Ocean in the tens of millions of years. Just recently, they suffered from an attack by the ancient dragon that descended upon the Gilded Kingdom. While the Gilded Kingdom took the most damage, it was considered one of the disasters of the Endless Ocean. And the catastrophe that impacted the Sea Clan the most was a random one that led to the fall of the Oceanic Dynasty. It not only doomed the dynasty, but also resulted in battles that swept the entire Endless Ocean. Hence, Auctioneer Vidi wasn't helping the audience when all he mentioned was a catastrophe. Auctioneer Vidi, can you just tell us directly? What's so special about this item for it to be arranged as the final piece? Cried the audience exasperatedly. Although all of them were well-respected representatives, their curiosity about the item made them neglect their manners. I would need more than a day and a night to share about the disasters that happened at the Endless Ocean. But the disaster that is related to this item is definitely the most horrifying catastrophe that has been recorded in the history of the ocean. And the culprit of the disaster was also known as the All Evils, shared Vidi gravely. The atmosphere changed when the audience heard the name. As residents of the Endless Ocean, they ought to be familiar with the term regardless if they belong to the human race or Sea Clan. All evil, what the hell is that? Lin Li thought as he became even more confused. While he had knowledge of the Endless Ocean, he wasn't as informed about the whole of their history, and the term, all evils, only reminded him of the phrase, lewdness is the worst of all evils. Not to mention Lin Li, Conorus, who was once an ancient deity, had no idea what Vidi was talking about as well. Conorus shook his head helplessly when he saw Lin Li's inquiring eyes. After all, Conorus did not explore the Endless Ocean when he was still an ancient deity. He later devoted all his time with the other ancient deities to the creation of the Endless Abyss, and thus strayed from the Endless Ocean. However, there were a significant number of people who were not sure what an all evil was. After all, the participants of the auction were not only forces from the Endless Ocean, but also those from Anral. Hence, Vidi did not wait for the audience to discuss it among themselves. The all evil is an ancient beast in the Endless Ocean that was formed out of an accumulation of hatred and lewdness, Vidi explained. Vidi's words reminded Lin Li of something similar to the all evil, the whispering god he met at Prince Berhir's mausoleum. That whispering god was formed out of an accumulation of the grievances of countless evil spirits that even sanctuary powerhouses did not have a way to deal with. If Lin Li had not found whispering god's magical crystal, it would have been impossible for him to defeat the whispering god that day. The all evil took thousands of years to gain its physical body, and was born with power comparable to the sanctuary realm. It was considered the most malefic existence of the endless ocean. In its historical records, an all-evil once appeared in the endless ocean tens, or thousands of years ago. Its birth set off a reign of terror and the deaths of countless powerhouses and people of the sea, continued Vidi. In reality, it was difficult for the disaster caused by the all-evil to incite much emotion in the people of the sea. After all, it had been a long time since the catastrophe happened. As the auctioneer, however, Vidi would definitely not let the air turn stale. He followed up with his vivid story in a very grave tone. At that time, Amidst, the king of the Ocean dynasty, gathered over 20 sanctuary powerhouses from different forces to raise the nest of the all-evil. That battle created an uproar in the entire region of the ocean. The waves were surging over a few hundreds in height, and the seawater was steaming so much that the sky was covered. The all-evil was provoked, and the air was filled with grievances that melted the space shield, said Vidi. It was obvious that Vidi had done his homework for this auction to be able to make a historical story come to life. Even those who were familiar with the story were immersed in it. Vidi's voice dominated the auction. Everyone was sitting extremely uptight. There were even some that were slightly trembling with nervousness. There were over 20 sanctuary powerhouses during the Ocean dynasty, of which 8 were at their peak. With the help of magical equipment that was close to the divine level, they would be able to challenge a real divine. Of course, the other sanctuary powerhouses were not common people, either. Every one of them had his stories recorded in the history of the endless ocean. That battle lasted over a month, and affected a few 100,000 square meters of sea area as well as countless people of the sea. There were also close to 10 sanctuary powerhouses who died from the battle with the all-evil. The hellish region had over 10 million grieving souls shrieking in the air, covering the sky with a thick death aura that no threat of sunlight could penetrate. In the end, it was Amidst, the king of the Ocean dynasty, who gathered the 8 ocean gods to summon the will of the endless sea, and killed the monstrous beast. But the birth of the all-evil created great losses for the Ocean dynasty that it could not even recover from after thousands of years. There were even people who said that the decline of the Ocean dynasty began from the appearance of the all-evil. And now, what you see on this stage is the heart of all evil. It not only has a great amount of peak sanctuary realm mana, but also an energy that can suppress all evils. Vidi finally shared the origin of the item after recounting it. Although the audience would have been in awe when they heard Vidi's narrative, the final reveal was what caused them to gasp in unison. This was not excluding the big shots, who were staying in their cabins. To these people, it wasn't important whether the thrilling story was true or fabricated. It was the name, All Evil, that caught their attention. They knew that it had to be something impressive for it to have its name recorded in history. At this time, Grand Duke Vidi fiddled with the display table and projected the image of the heart onto the big screen behind him. Well, I believe you already have some preliminary understanding of the heart of all evil. We are going to proceed with the auction now. The starting price is 10 million gold coins. The starting price of 10 million gold coins was definitely not a lot for the people participating in the auction. Even the person with the least wealth would be able to retrieve this amount of money readily. However, most of them were aware that the heart would definitely not be sold at a few millions. Hence, there was a period of silence while they waited for Grand Duke Vidi to start the bidding. 50 million gold coins. Falth's voice was the first to be heard sounding from his cabin. The jump from 10 million gold coins to 50 million gold coins was a huge but reasonable one. In doing so, Falth bypassed many other competitors who had their eyes on the heart. To him, the two values were not of a great difference, and definitely were not reflections of its true value. Indeed, his offer brought out disappointment on the faces of many. The excitement in the hall dampened as these people lowered their plates helplessly. Right after Falth was Grina from the Giant Shark clan, 60 million gold coins, he called out as he raised his number plate. Originally, according to the rules of the auction, the norm for raising the price was 1 million gold coins. This much was nothing for a dominant power like the Giant Shark clan. The rate of increase would only slow down if the bidding price reached their limit. As soon as Grina's voice fell, various cabins started to offer their bids. Very quickly, they raised the price of the Heart of All Evil to 90 million gold coins. Although the Heart of All Evil was the mysterious item of this auction, it was not difficult for these forces to gain information about it before coming here. It was obvious that they were all vying for the heart, and all came prepared. 100 million gold coins, Falth called out. Although he did not have so many gold coins on hand, he had 10 legendary magical crystals that were worth over 30 million gold coins. In reality, no one would be able to offer hundreds of millions of gold coins in cash at once. Moreover, even if one had this much cash, it was not possible to trade all of it. Although the value of gold coins was not high, They were crucial for the financial stability of organizations. This was especially for several sea clans and human kingdoms. If they were to trade all of their coins, they would risk a collapsing economy. Strictly speaking, 100 million gold coins was merely a number. It would be impossible for anyone to offer 100 million actual gold coins. Of course, this was not a random number, either. Before attending a large auction like this, the participants would usually go to financial institutions, like the Glitter Gold Trade Union, to convert some of their items into coins to be credited onto their crystal cards. The most common item to be used was magical crystals that were below the legendary magical crystals. There had been a consensus reached by each of the forces about the value of these crystals according to their level of power. Hence, it would be easy for them to trade them among themselves. However, they would need the financial institution to approve their decision to retrieve their crystals at a premium. Hence, there would rarely be anyone who would use their legendary magical crystals to exchange for gold coins. This was especially so in their preparation for an auction. If they failed to obtain anything from the auction, it would not be easy for them to retrieve their precious crystals. After all, legendary magical crystals and common magical crystals were two different concepts. Apart from legendary magical crystals, financial institutions would also accept other resources such as magical metals and mineral veins in exchange for gold coins. Yet, there were also desperate people such as the Bellerophons that would convert all of them into gold coins to ensure that they had the highest chance of getting what they wanted at the auction. Falth's latest bid of 100 million gold coins was without the mentioning of his 10 legendary magic crystals. This was because he had already obtained an estimate of their value when he tried to bid for the coral staff earlier. Even if he had yet to convert them into gold coins, he would be able to use them like gold coins here. But it was obvious for Falth that he had accounted for the value of his legendary magical crystals and had reached his limit. He knew he would really hurt if he were to add to the bidding. However, the sea serpents were the least powerful tribe among the 7 overlords, and their sea region was not one that was rich in resources. It would be impossible for them to win the heart of all evil from the other overlords without breaking some bones. 150 million gold coins, quoted Prince Cleve. This was a calculated move. He could tell that Falth had reached his limit, and Cleve was trying to eliminate Falth with the new price. As expected, Falth's expression changed upon hearing the new price. If the Siren clan had been an inferior force, he would have threatened them with the status of the sea serpents like how he had done with the Bellerophons. Yet, he knew that the sea serpents could only subject themselves to the threat of the Siren clan. After all, the two forces were starkly different from each other in their respective abilities. 160 million gold coins. Another voice sounded from Octopus Clan's compartment before Falth responded. The Octopus Clan was one of the richest among the 7 overlords. They were reaping great revenue from their annual sales of magic scrolls. The price raised by the Octopus Clan replaced Falth's grave expression with one that screamed resignation. He plopped back into his seat. Although it was not impossible for him to offer this amount of gold coins, he was clear that the other party had not reached their limits. His effort to gather these gold coins would be in vain. Just like what Falth thought, the price of the heart of all evil did not even stop at 160 million gold coins. The value soon raced past the 200 million mark as offered by the several overlords such as the Giant Shark and Octopus Clan. At this point, there were not many bidders left except the Siren Clan, Giant Shark Clan, and the Octopus Clan. Of course, 200 million was considered a large number to the 3 sea clans. The speed of the bidding also slowed down. It was beginning to only inch by the millions. Lin Li originally had taken some interest in the heart of all evil, yet, the absurdity of the price dissipated all that interest. Although he could afford the price, there was a question of whether it was a worthy investment. The heart of all evil had 2 main uses: supplying an unlimited amount of mana and suppressing all forms of evil. To Lin Li, these weren't important functions. He could easily use sanctuary-level magic crystals to supply purer mana, and counter evil with the help of holy light and gloomy dark, the debris of the stars. His interest in the heart was purely out of a desire to study it. Lin Li certainly believed that it would not be worthy for him to spend such a fortune for it. Having lost interest in the heart of all evil, Lin Li directed his attention to other places. It was then that he realized that the Bellerophon, who had previously obtained the coral staff, was nowhere to be found. This was not surprising for someone who obviously attended the auction for the staff. Now that he had acquired an item which many were vying for, it only made sense for him to take his leave as soon as possible. As compared to the heart of all evil, Lin Li was more interested in the Bellerophons. Hence, he used his mental strength to reach the embassy to order Norfler to secretly keep an eye on the Bellerophons. Unlike the rest, Lin Li did not view the Bellerophons as weaklings, and thus he even had the intention to hire a group of Bellerophons. However, now that the Bellerophons had acquired the coral staff, Lin Li thought that it was only normal for the Bellerophons to take the chance to erase their tracks. Hence, Lin Li let Norfler keep an eye on them to ensure that he could still find the Bellerophons after he completed his current plans. After making the arrangement, Lin Li redirected his attention to the auction. The value of the Heart of All Evil had been raised to 230 million gold coins by Prince Cleve from the Siren clan. The Octopus clan had withdrawn from the race. The only competitor of the Siren clan was Grina from the Giant Shark clan. Grina did not raise his number plate immediately, but only did it after Grand Duke Viti called the price twice to signal that he would like to increase the price by 1,000,000 gold coins. Meanwhile, Zoro, one of his 4 divine generals, appeared in Falth's cabin. It was obvious that Grina was stalling for time while he let Zoro bargain with Falth. After several rounds of bidding, Grina was very clear that he might not be as prepared as the Siren clan in this auction. Hence, he shifted his focus onto Falth's tens of millions of gold coins. You want to use the aquamarine veins in the eastern part of the Red Sea to exchange for all the gold coins in my hands, asked Falth. Although he had a calm composure, Falth was deeply elated. He thought that this transaction would prevent him from leaving the auction empty-handed. No. It's 5 years of mining rights, Zoro emphasized expressionlessly as he took out a contract. The aquamarine veins in the eastern part of the Red Sea had ample resources, enough to last hundreds of years. It was not something that could be bought with tens of millions of gold coins, even if it was only 5 years of mining rights. However, as long as one were to put in enough effort, the revenue to be gained would definitely be more than tens of millions of gold coins. Falth knew the benefits very well, but he was even clearer that the Giant Shark clan needed his gold coins extremely urgently. Hence, he naturally hoped to use the chance to reap more benefits from the Giant Shark clan. Well, you should know that we have yet to reach the finale of this auction, and that there is still going to be one last item. If I were to give you all my gold coins, the sea serpent would definitely suffer huge losses if the last item was something crucial to our development, explained Falth slyly. He was really gleeful to be able to have an advantage over the Giant Shark clan. However, Zoro remained unaffected by his advancing of the price. Well, then, Sir Falth, I wonder, what are your conditions? I also hope to remind you that I can easily find other interested dealers here. My master made you our first choice, as he considered the good relationship between our clans. If your conditions are overly harsh, I will have to find someone else, explained Zoro. Hearing this, Falth was reminded that he shouldn't be too demanding in his conditions. He was certain that he wouldn't be the only one attracted to the deal. Alright then, I want 10 years of mining rights, and a guarantee that our deal will never be affected regardless of whether you have the last bid, for the Heart of All Evil, replied Falth after he heard the price of the heart being pushed to a new high. 10 years is too much. At most 7 years of mining rights, asserted Zoro with Grina's bottom line. His words were very crisp and relayed with an unquestionable tone. Although he was dissatisfied with Zoro's attitude, Falth knew that 7 years of mining rights was a considerable benefit. Hence, Falth did not say anything else, and accepted the contract from Zoro. Before he signed on it, he edited the original contract to ensure that the deal would last for 7 years and stay unaffected regardless of whether the Great Shark clan won the bidding. After completing the transaction with Falth, Zoro immediately returned to his cabin to report to Grina, who had been buying the time. Upon receiving the news, Grina was invigorated, and changed his original strategy of raising the price by 1,000,000. He proceeded to raise the price by 20 million gold coins, pushing the price of the Heart of All Evil to 270 million gold coins. As he did that, he was also implying to the Siren clan that they had found external help. Sure enough, the Siren clan descended into a short period of silence after Grina added 20 million gold coins to the bid. After all, the Siren clan was going to reach their limits just when the Grina reached theirs. Now that Grina had found external support, it would be almost impossible for the Siren clan to win if they continued to rely on themselves. I'm not sure who gave that kid more money. It seems like we would need to put in some effort in this bidding, said Prince Cleve as he turned to look at his wife. He was not very worried about it. Queen Halia smiled gently, and shifted her gaze to the Heart of All Evil that was on the stage. I did not expect to see the heart here. Seems like our years of searching have not gone to waste. It is certainly worth to put in more effort to acquire it. However, I do not know whom has Grina found help from. Let's ready ourselves as well, she said. Everyone in this auction venue had at least tens of millions of gold coins in their hands, while the 7 overlords definitely had hundreds of millions of them. This auction would certainly not drain them dry. Hence, Queen Halia had to make some plans now. If not, it would be incredibly difficult for her to put her hands on the Heart of All Evil. She knew she had to offer the best deal for not only others, but also something that would be reasonable for herself. Since everyone at the auction knew the Siren clan needed money to compete in the bidding, they would certainly take the opportunity to suck the Sirens dry. If not, they would definitely be fools. Grina from the giant shark clan used 7 years of mining rights to exchange for tens of millions of gold coins from Falf. Although Queen Hylia and Prince Cleve did not know the details of the contract, they were certain that Grina had paid a hefty price for it. Hence, he was really wrecking his brain to think about an attractive offer. The couple also had to consider another crucial matter: the reluctance of the other forces to offend the giant shark clan while they lent their support to the sirens. Even if they were not afraid to offend the giant shark clan, most of them would definitely use it as an excuse to extort more benefits from the sirens. Hence, it could be said that the sirens had already been disadvantaged. Hylia and Cleve could not help but feel slightly helpless when they thought of that. Cleve only continued to increase the price by 1,000,000 gold coins each time he heard Vida's voice. He was trying to stall for time as well. This was contrasted by Grina's enthusiasm. After the sirens raised the price by 1,000,000 gold coins, he immediately raised his sign and called out 280 million gold coins. 280 million gold coins. The giant shark clan has just raised the price to 280 million gold coins. Is there anyone else who is willing to bid it at a higher price? Asked Grand Duke Viti with great excitement. He could no longer suppress his emotions. It was an unprecedented value. While Grand Duke Viti was elated by the progress, it added more pressure to Hylia and Cleve. Suddenly, a thought flashed across Cleve's mind. I have somebody in mind that we might be able to approach. This person has some tension with the giant shark clan, but is fearless of them. It's just that we do now have much interaction with him, so I'm not sure if he will want to lend us this favor, shared Cleve. Cleve's words turned Hylia's frown upside down. Might you be referring to President Flick, who was indifferent to Grina's pride? She asked knowingly. You are right. Prince Cleve nodded. Yet, he did not become more relaxed because of the mutual understanding. Instead, he started frowning. Unfortunately, we are not familiar with him, and the last item of this auction has not yet appeared. I'm not sure if he would be willing to give up on his opportunity to render help to us, continued Cleve. How can we be sure if we don't try? We are looking for a fair deal, assured Queen Hylia. Although she knew that it might be difficult, she was willing to give it a go for the sake of the heart of all evil. Since it was going to be a fair deal, it did not matter whether they had a close-knitted relationship with Flick. The key was Flick's boldness to go against the giant shark clan. Lin Li and Conoris were feeling a little bored sitting in their cabin. They were really not interested in the heart of all evil, but could only watch the two forces compete in the bidding. Then, they heard a knock at their door. Conoris went to the door and saw Prince Cleve standing outside. President Flick, are you free to have a chat? Asked Prince Cleve. Although he looked ugly, Prince Cleve radiated a warm and affable aura. His voice could be considered hoarse but also attractive. Although Lin Li was not really familiar with Queen Hylia and Prince Cleve, and did not have much of a good impression of them, he did not have a bad impression of them either. Hence, Lin Li stood to invite Prince Cleve to have a seat in the room. Why? Of course, he replied smilingly. Lin Li had been observing the situation at the auction, and was clear of Prince Cleve's intentions. Grina's sudden move had definitely forced the sirens to delay the bidding. It was obvious that the latter were having problems with their funds. Although Lin Li did not have many interactions with the sirens, and had only exchanged a simple greeting with the siren couple, he knew that he would need to have a partnership with the forces here if he wanted the Tower of Dusk to expand towards the endless ocean. While it was not Lin Li's personality to suck up to those forces, he wouldn't outrightly reject people who reached out to him willingly. Now is a key moment to bid for the heart of all evil. I suppose something urgent brought you here, Lin Li said after he invited Prince Cleve to sit. There was no need to beat around the bush. While the sirens were trying to stall for time, everyone knew that the tactic was not the safest option. Moreover, Prince Cleve was also uncertain that President Flick would be willing to help. Hence, he naturally did not dare to spend too much time here. Therefore, Prince Cleve did not care to conceal his true intentions. When he heard Lin Li's inquiry, I bet you know why I am here, President Flick. We were initially confident that our funds would be able to let us obtain the heart of all evil through bidding, and did not expect the giant shark clan to seek external funding. We can't predict the amount of funds they obtained, so I hope to make a deal with you, said Cleve with a helpless smile. Oh, what kind of deal? Feel free to let me know, encouraged Lin Li. After all, he had been wanting to establish a partnership with the sirens, as he had yet to have many interactions or a good relationship with them. Lin Li believed that a fair deal would be the first step to their relationship. If he were to present himself too eagerly, not only might the sirens not appreciate his goodwill, they might also look down on his tower. Lin Li's words immediately sparked hope in Cleve's heart. Of course, he did not try to show too many emotions on his face or in his tone. Although the sea region that is under the control of the sirens is not the most fertile as compared to the other parts of the sea, it is a region that is rich in minerals and other resources. We can give you the mining rights in exchange for financial support, Cleve continued calmly. Prince Cleve proposed the same benefits as Grina, when the latter tried to work with Falth. After all, one could take all his time to harvest resources from the sea, but not during an auction. Their offers were like advanced payments of profits partners could obtain from their territories. However, Lin Li was not a fan of Prince Cleve's proposal. After all, he had attained mastery in mineral surveying, and knew that the combined territories claimed by the 7 overlords were not the whole of the endless ocean. Hence, he could very well use his own means to look for resources he needed in the other parts of the vast sea. Therefore, Lin Li smiled and shook his head after he heard Prince Cleve's proposal. Prince Cleve could tell that Lin Li was not interested in his offer. Fortunately, that was not his only proposal. Furthermore, I have heard of your tension with Grina from the giant shark clan, and I suppose that they will create trouble for you in the future. I believe that with our escort, your merchant fleets will be able to travel unimpeded in the endless sea, in the future, said Cleve. This promise made by Prince Cleve definitely was of irresistible allure to people who needed to make a living at sea. Although the giant shark clan was ranked first in strength among the 7 overlords, the 3 overlords, the Thunder Eel clan, Siren clan, and Octopus clan, were not too far off in strength. In the endless sea, the protection from the Siren clan would definitely trump any blessing from the sea god, not to mention pirates. The Siren clan was definitely not a force anyone with similar capabilities would want to offend. Lin Li shook his head smilingly despite the great benefit. I appreciate your goodwill, but I can deal with the giant shark clan myself, responded Lin Li. Although the giant shark clan was extremely powerful in the endless sea, it was far from being intimidating to Lin Li. If he had been fearful of them, he would not have dared to offend Grina so greatly in front of the embassy of the Tower of Dusk. Lin Li's lack of interest in the mining rights and the Siren's protection troubled Prince Cleve. He did not know what to offer Lin Li anymore, and Vida's voice wasn't helping. Then, President Fulik, I wonder what you need from the Sirens, asked Cleve as he shook his head helplessly. Cleve thought that it would be easier to ask Fulik directly. After all, they were in the midst of an auction. There was no time to lose. While Queen Halia was still adding to the bidding, the auction would end if she couldn't answer Grina's question about the Siren's eligibility to partake in it. Then, the heart of all evil would fall into the hands of the giant shark clan immediately. Lin Li did not intend to make things difficult for Prince Cleve. After all, he did not have any tension with the Sirens. You don't need to be anxious. In fact, what I need is very simple, and won't trouble you much, assured Lin Li smilingly. Oh, what is it? Asked Prince Cleve curiously. He couldn't quite believe it, and even started making mental preparations to pay for a hefty price. After all, they were the ones who were in need of help. Anyone would not want to miss the opportunity to take advantage of the Sirens. I want the Sirens' tears, responded Lin Li slowly. The Sirens' tears were considered a specialty of the Sirens, but they were not a special product that the Sirens were known for. This was because the latter did not deliberately produce them. The Sirens' tear was telling in its name. It was literally a tear that belonged to the Sirens. Of course, to be more specific, the tears belonged to female Sirens. Tears were a product of emotions, and emotions were not something that could be controlled or deliberately produced. Something good about the Sirens' tears was their composition. Their insoluble nature made it easy for people to collect them. This was because no one would remember to collect their tears when they were sad, or be a joker by going around to collect people's tears when they cried. The female Sirens were born to be masters of spiritual spells, and their mental strength would peak when they cried. Hence, their tears contained the purest mental strength. Through the means of pharmacy, Lin Li would be able to use their tears to prepare a potion that could help to rapidly raise and recover mental strength. Recovering mental strength was not a big deal, as there were other ingredients apart from the Sirens' tears that could help to do the same. However, the boosting of mental strength was a different story. That was a defiance of natural order, and the Sirens' tears were an essential ingredient for that to happen. For any person, the amount of mental strength was basically fixed at birth, and was also known as their magical talent or potential. Therefore, someone's talent might stop at the level of an archmage, for instance. No matter how hard he tried, he wouldn't ever be able to step into the legendary realm. There were also people who were deemed unfit to learn magic. Expanding one's mental strength was akin to raising one's innate talent in magic, and there had not been a way for anyone to do so for the longest time. Potions that were created to help people overcome their bottlenecks were only crafted to stimulate their undiscovered potential. They were not there to increase their mental strength out of nowhere. This was what made the magical crystal of the Evil Eye, Tyrant, one of the 3 relics of Garesco, alongside the Book of Eternity and the key to the Upside-Down Tower. Things with the power of raising mental strength were definitely a defiance of natural order in Anral. As a pharmaceutical master, Lin Li happened to have the recipe of a potion that could help to enhance mental strength. It was called the Divine Revelation Potion, and the Siren's Tears were a key ingredient. Although the effects of the potion would not be comparable to the Evilite Tyrant's, Lin Li was confident that he could produce enough potions if he had enough ingredients. It wouldn't be as limited as the Evilite Tyrant. As long as Lin Li could create the potion that could raise mental strength, he would be able to nurture magic talents in the Tower of Dusk. The mages there were originally chosen for their strong magical potential. If they could consume the Divine Revelation Potion to expand their mental strength, their future would really be unlimited. Not to mention the future, a lot of them were now stuck at the legendary realm, and Lin Li was confident that the Divine Revelation Potion would help many of them step into the sanctuary realm. Hence, the mining rights and sea protection were not as important as the Siren's Tears. There was a saying that one would need to be strong to shape a metal. As long as the Tower of Dusk was strong enough, no one at the Endless Ocean would be able to stop them. Prince Cleve couldn't help but freeze when he heard Lin Li's request. The Siren's Tears were considered a rare product given how they were produced. Yet, they had not been sold to the others before. It was not that the Sirens were not concerned about their earnings, but the fact was that the item did not have much use for the others. No warrior or mage would be able to withstand the vigorous mental storm if they were to consume the tears directly due to the pure mental strength within them. There was even a chance that they would damage their original mental strength and become a cripple. Hence, no matter how rare a Siren's Tear was, there was no demand for it. The reason why the Sirens stored the tears was because of their ability to help female Sirens recover their mental strength rapidly. The Sirens' Tears were considered a reserve resource during battles. President Flick, I'm not sure if you know this, but the Siren's Tears are not something that outsiders could consume. They wouldn't be able to withstand the mental storm, explained Prince Cleve patiently despite the urgent need for funds. His goodwill multiplied Lin Li's positive impression of him. Lin Li was very clear that while the tears were a rare product, they weren't very valued among the Sirens. Anyone would have readily agreed, or fiercely marketed them in exchange for his funds. No one would be concerned enough to expose their dangers and downsides at such a time. Thank you for your reminder, Prince, but I have my uses for them, and do not intend to consume them directly. So, if you are agreeable, should we discuss the price of the Siren's Tears? Replied Lin Li. Although now he had good feelings towards the prince, Lin Li did not expose any of his plans about the Divine Revelation Potion to the other party. After all, the effect of the potion was a defiance of natural order. He was absolutely positive that the knowledge of it would hike up the price of the tears. Seeing that Lin Li was not concerned about the repercussions of the Siren's Tears, and knowing that he himself was in urgent need of funding, Prince Cleve naturally stopped resisting. President Flick, we have never sold the Siren's Tears, so there is no way I could give you an accurate estimation of the price. However, since they are considered rare, and also a strategic reserve of our clan, I hope to price each drop at 50,000 gold coins. Do you think that is appropriate? As it was almost useless to outsiders, it was natural for the tears not to be circulated in the market. Hence, it was impossible for Prince Cleve to come up with an appropriate price according to its value in the market. But, just like what Prince Cleve had shared, as the tears could not be manufactured readily, pricing them at 50,000 gold coins per drop was a reasonable move. In fact, to Lin Li, the price of 50,000 gold coins for every drop of tear was too cheap for a life-changing potion like the Divine Revelation Potion. According to its recipe, every bottle of the potion would require 3 drops of Siren's Tears. Together with the other ingredients, its cost would not exceed 300,000 gold coins. To the general public, 300,000 gold coins was considered a very large number, yet it was nothing compared to the financial strength of the Tower of Dusk. Moreover, not to mention the cost of 300,000 gold coins, 1,000,000 gold coins would not have been able to match the true value of a disruption to natural order. Okay, deal. Lin Li agreed to the partnership without hesitation. After all, they were still at an auction. There wouldn't be a need for the partnership if the auction were to end before that. Furthermore, he did not have a bad impression of the Sirens. Who knew if they would have other forms of partnerships in the future? There was no need to be too calculative at this time. Prince Cleve naturally felt pleased by Lin Li's swift agreement. He took out a blank contract to detail the deal. After all, he was here to participate in the auction, and did not have many Siren's Tears with him now, so he could only sign a contract first. President Flick, I wonder how much money you are willing to lend me? Asked Prince Cleve after he signed the contract. Right now, no one could figure out how much external aid Grina's side had with him. Therefore, Prince Cleve wanted to clarify in case he might need to seek help from more people. Lin Li's support would definitely make it easier for him to seek more help later on. Lin Li did not respond to Prince Cleve directly. Instead, he turned towards the auction table and raised the sign in his hand. 350 million gold coins. he said. His voice put the crowd in a shock, for no one had expected the new bid to not only break the 300 million mark, but at an extra value of 50 million gold coins. What was even more unbelievable was whom the voice belonged to. It was not from a force with huge status, but from a small force that no one knew. Grina, who had been feeling a sense of victory, nearly spurted a mouthful of blood after he heard the bid quoted by Lin Li. Although he had the support from the sea serpents, their total funds could definitely not reach 350 million gold coins. What else could he use to bid for the heart? Do I need to approach other forces for support? Wondered Grina. Yet, deep inside he knew that it was too late to do so. None of those forces would have the ability to offer so much money as well. Even if he were to approach the other overlords, he would never find a force like the sea serpents who would be willing to help. After all, they were in constant competition with one another. Unlike the sea serpents, they would definitely not allow the giant shark clan to make use of them so easily. 350 million gold coins from President Flick from the Tower of Dusk. Anyone else? Asked Grand Duke Viti fervently as though he was on drugs. This was when Grina realized whom the new offer was from. He peeled his window and stuck the upper half of his body out of his compartment anxiously. Impossible. How can he afford to pay 350 million gold coins? I demand that the auction organizers verify his funds. Grina shouted at Grand Duke Viti. Grina's shouting immediately enlivened the crowd at the auction. To them, the Tower of Dusk was a mere force from the breezy plains. None of them had heard of its name before this, and 350 million gold coins was not a small sum. Even though it was a premium auction for the wealthy, there was a high chance for the combined sum of all their wealth to fall short of the amount. In fact, the participants were not the only ones who were doubting Lin Li's credibility. Grand Duke Viti was feeling skeptical as well. At the same time, Prince Cleve was also dumbfounded by Lin Li's approach. Didn't they reach mutual agreement to exchange the Siren's Tears with funding from the Tower of Dusk? Why did the Tower raise their own sign to bid 350 million gold coins? President Flick, what are you doing? Prince Cleve asked in a daze. Lin Li saw through Prince Cleve's worry. Your Highness, there is no need to be anxious. I know you wanted the heart of all evil, but I am not sure how much money I need to defeat Grina. So, I decided to take the heart down once and for all. You can pay whatever you can in gold coins, and can cover the rest in exchange for the Siren's Tears. Doesn't this save us a lot of time? He replied with a smile. Prince Cleve sighed in relief after hearing Lin Li's explanation. He was relieved to know that Lin Li did not have the intention to take the heart of all evil for himself. President Flick, there was a call outside the cabin. Lin Li raised his arm to open the door with an invisible force. If it was a guest like Prince Cleve, Lin Li would definitely not have opened the door in such a rude way. Hearing Grina shouting amidst the loud discussion among the other participants, Lin Li naturally knew what the visitor wanted to do. The voice outside the door belonged to one of the people in charge of the auction, and he was here to verify if Lin Li had enough funds to claim the heart. He was about to enter the cabin when he caught a glimpse of Prince Cleve from the Siren clan in it. Instantly, he had a clearer understanding of the situation. However, since he was here, he knew he needed to go through the motions. After greeting Lin Li and Prince Cleve, the person in charge came close to Lin Li. President Flick, I am Frank, one of the people in charge of the auction. As the bid is too large, we need to verify the funds you hold. I hope you understand, he requested politely. Hold up. Are you doubting our credibility? Asked Prince Cleve defensively. He knew that Lin Li was helping himself to claim the heart of all evil. How could he let Lin Li be subjected to such accusations? Immediately, Frank broke out in a cold sweat. Now, he was 100% sure of the partnership between the Siren clan and the Tower of Dusk. If it was only the Tower of Dusk, he could have used the rules of the auction to back his request for the fund verification. The involvement of the Sirens made it tricky to do so. Frank bowed hastily while he wiped the sweat off his face. It's a misunderstanding, Prince Cleve. I'm just going through the motions. How could we not trust your credibility? I'll return now. Frank did not dare to stay any longer. After saying a few words of apology, he sped out from the compartment without looking back and relayed the information to Grand Duke Viti, who naturally had nothing to say. While it did not sound easy to produce 350 million gold coins despite their partnership, no one dared to doubt their credibility. Grand Duke Viti gestured to everyone to remain silent as he walked back up the stage. It has been verified. The president of the Tower of Dusk, Flick, is fully qualified to participate in the auction. Thus, we will continue with the auction for the heart of all evil. The latest bid is 350 million gold coins. Does anyone have a higher price to offer? Viti's words sent the crowd into an immediate silence. Grina was extremely furious. The calmness of the Sirens at Viti's announcement could only mean one thing. they had partnered up with the Tower of Dusk. Grina could not believe that his efforts had all gone down the drain. Bam! The wooden hammer Vida's hand landed heavily on the table. Congratulations to President Flick of the Tower of Dusk. You have won the bidding for the heart of all evil with a price of 350 million gold coins, he announced loudly. Very quickly, the heart of all evil was transported to Lin Li's compartment. While it was Prince Cleve, who proposed to leave the heart with Lin Li until he retrieved enough Siren's tears to exchange for it, his proposal was rejected by Lin Li, who had already formed a good impression of him. Lin Li let Cleve directly return to his room with the heart of all evil. Prince Cleve was naturally grateful for Lin Li's gesture. In addition to promising to deliver the Siren's tears as soon as possible, he also expressed his desire for further cooperation with the Tower of Dusk. At this point, it felt like the auction had ended. Just when the crowd was prepared to leave, Grand Duke Vidi let his men bring another item up the stage, and hooked the curiosity of the crowd once again. How could the heart of all evil that was worth 350 million gold coins not be the finale of the auction? May there be anything better than the heart? However, their curiosity soon dissipated with the Grand Duke's announcement. If not for Vidi, they would have left the scene. The next to be auctioned is from the Tower of Dusk, a magic scroll created by President Flick. Grand Duke Vidi announced the origin of the item loudly. With that, the venue burst into a cacophony of noises. There might be greater excitement if it was an item which Lin Li had brought to the auction. That was because it might mean that it was a work of some guru of inscription from the ancient era. The knowledge that it was created by President Flick did not help to sustain the audience's interest at all. They were already certain that the magic scroll was not something of value. Without even looking at it, everyone knew that no one in the whole of Anral would be able to compare to the Octopus clan in their expertise in magic scrolls. There would probably be some interest in the item if it was from the Octopus clan. No one believed that a young human being could have a potential comparable to the Octopus clan. However, in the royal compartment, Bradler from the Gilded Kingdom was equally confused. What's going on? Didn't that stubborn Vidi say he would never leave that for the finale? He asked as he turned to look at Prince Monterey. Initially, Bradler was expecting Lin Li's magic scroll to appear before the heart of all evil. Seeing that it hadn't appeared before that, he'd thought Vidi had decided against featuring it at the auction. Fortunately, he had tried to please Lin Li with Helldana's artwork earlier. If not, this item would definitely send him into a great dilemma. He did not expect such a huge twist at the end. Monterey was full of confusion as well. Your Majesty, I am bewildered too. I remember Grand Duke Vidi being very firm in his response. Did he change his mind? I don't think he would want to leave the scroll to the finale to mock Flick, he replied dumbfoundedly. Prince Monterey's last words jolted the thoughts of Bradler, as both of them glanced at each other knowingly. It would not matter if the scroll was left out of the auction, as Gilded Kingdom had already tried to show their friendliness through Helldana's artwork. They were worried that Grand Duke Vidi wanted to settle his personal grudge by mocking Lin Li with the scroll. Moreover, this was not unwarranted speculation. The out-of-the-world bidding for the heart of all evil made no other item in the auction suitable to be placed in the finale. Not to mention the ultimate value of the scroll, it was suspicious for anyone to bring the scroll out at such a timing. However, it was impossible for Bradler to prevent it from happening. The item had been placed on stage. It was a reality that the scroll had become the finale of the auction. Bradler really hated this thought. He really had the urge to hand Grand Duke Vidi and give him a whipping. How could the Grand Duke go back on his words with such an unforgivable act? Grand Duke Vidi really felt unjust when he heard the heated discussions and sensed the blatant accusations of his character. Who would have thought that no inscriber had the ability to decipher the power of such an ordinary-looking magic scroll? He even had to let people bring the scroll out to a special space for a test trial. It was only a while ago that the testers returned with an unbelievable report regarding the scroll. Grand Duke Vidi had initially thought that the magic scroll probably wouldn't be put up for auction, even if its level had been verified after the appraisal. After all, the heart of all evil had already created a miracle in the history of auctions. However, after reading the appraisal report, Grand Duke Vidi nevertheless brought the item over despite being full of disbelief. As opposed to the commotion that most of the people had gotten into, there was a completely different scene in the private room of the Octopus clan. The person who was taking part in the bidding was Harquis of the Octopus clan. When he heard that the next auction item was created by Lin Li, who was also known as President Flick of the Tower of Dusk, Harquis immediately recalled the evaluation that his father and the Grand Elder had made about Lin Li previously. Has that human mage's attainments and inscription really reached the level that the Grand Elder mentioned? Although Harquis refused to believe it, he didn't dare to doubt the judgment of the Grand Elder and his father. Hence, he had developed quite a great interest in that auction item. After all, Lin Li had merely added a Magath to the one that Harquis had drawn previously, but his elders were already very impressed. Now that this item was created by Lin Li, Harquis reckoned that it should be enough to display Lin Li's level of attainments and inscription. Flick, the hosts of this auction seem to have quite a good judgment, as they know how valuable your scroll is. Connorus wasn't surprised at all that Lin Li's magic scroll was brought to the stage after the heart of all evil. Others might not know how capable Lin Li was, but Connorus had been Lin Li's subordinate for such a long time. Of course he knew how competent Lin Li was. Lin Li smiled nonchalantly. His magic scroll was put up for auction only because it was a request made by the Gilded Kingdom, and he was doing Bradler a favor. Lin Li didn't actually care about how much the magic scroll would be sold for. The person who managed to buy it would be considered lucky, but even if no one bought it, Lin Li wouldn't find it a pity. However, Bradler didn't know what Lin Li's attitude was. Besides, even if he did, he definitely wouldn't allow the auction item to go unsold. If the Mageth hadn't been presented on the stage for the auction, he would have let it go, since the Gilded Kingdom had already expressed their goodwill to Lin Li by putting up Heldano's painting for auction. However, since the magic scroll had been brought to the stage for auction, Bradler could only think of a way to give the scroll a decent and acceptable transaction price according to his initial plan. Of course, that wasn't a big deal to him, the king of a kingdom, because it was just a matter of spending some gold coins. What really worried him was whether the reactions of those people in the hall would make Lin Li feel awkward. Everyone, please be quiet, please be quiet, Grand Duke Vidi exclaimed, unable to maintain his composure because of the chatter and commotion going on below the stage. Fortunately, Grand Duke Vidis' words still carried some weight. After the discussion, the people at the auction were interested to hear Grand Duke Vidis' explanation as to why exactly the scroll would be put up for auction at this juncture. Hence, they gradually quieted down and looked at Grand Duke Vidi, who was on the stage, with peculiar gazes. Grand Duke Vidi could sense the meaning in their gazes, but after taking a look at the magic scroll, he bit the bullet and picked it up. Holding the Mageth scroll in hand, Grand Duke Vidi rehearsed his lines in his head before saying to the audience below the stage, "I will not tell you the level of this scroll for now." According to customary practices, he was supposed to first introduce the magic scroll's level, which could be superior level, master level, or even guru level. However, when Grand Duke Vidi was about to do so, he suddenly remembered that the level of the scroll had yet to be determined after the appraisal. Hence, he had no choice but to pretend to keep them in suspense. However, the audience below the stage weren't convinced by his trick. They wouldn't mind being kept in suspense if it was some mysterious item, but there was nothing mysterious about a Mageth scroll, as there were only just a few levels that the scroll could be at. Besides, this magic scroll was created by a human mage, who was only in his early 20s. They would never believe that the young mage would be able to create an impressive Mageth scroll. In their opinion, Grand Duke Vidi was being ridiculous by keeping them in suspense. Grand Duke Vidi, could it be that the magic scroll you're holding is only at the apprentice level? Someone immediately exclaimed while guffawing loudly. Yes, it indeed isn't easy to see an apprentice level magic scroll at such an auction. Ha ha. Immediately afterwards, many people joined in the clamoring. Hearing the noisy commotion from below, Grand Duke Vidi immediately looked embarrassed and awkward, but he had no choice except to pretend like he didn't hear it. He loudly continued, "Next, I'll be showcasing the power of this Mageth. I believe you will all come to a judgment after you see it. What else is there to showcase? Just start the auction now. I'll offer 1 gold coin." The one who made such a disrespectful comment was none other than Grina, who was boiling with fury because he had suffered plenty of losses caused by Lin Li. First, it was the dark gold magic dragon armor that Lin Li had snatched away from him, which was followed by the heart of all evil that he was bent on acquiring, but somehow failed to do so because of Lin Li again. He now bore a strong grudge against Lin Li. Grina had decided not to compete further with Lin Li for the dark gold magic dragon armor, because he'd wanted to save his gold coins for the heart of all evil, which he regarded as his most important goal at the auction. However, he didn't expect to end up failing to get his hands on the heart of all evil too, thus leaving him with nothing but a massive bunch of gold coins. Grina, the prince of the giant shark clan, had never suffered such a huge loss before, and he was already doing the Gilded Kingdom a favor by not taking the 4 divine generals with him to settle the scores with Lin Li. Now that Lin Li's magic scroll had appeared at the auction, he couldn't contain his anger. After Grina took the lead, the rest of the people naturally didn't have any more scruples as they began placing their bids like Grina did, increasing the price by 1 gold coin at a time. They even made a huge ruckus, as if the bidding was intense. Seeing such a scene, there was nothing else Grand Duke Vidi could say. He had no choice but to untie the string around the scroll and slowly unroll the scroll according to the appraisal report. In fact, Grand Duke Viti felt that he could have just unrolled the scroll in one go because there was a powerful defensive magic array on the stage to act as a barrier. Even a master-level magic scroll would not cause any damage to the auction hall, let alone Lin Li's scroll. However, while thinking about the contents of the appraisal report, Grand Duke Viti couldn't help but slow down in the unrolling despite doubting the truth of the matter. He stopped unrolling the scroll when a 2-finger-width section of the scroll was revealed. As the scroll was unrolled, a dense force was emitted from the scroll, and immediately shrouded everyone in the auction hall. The people in the hall were initially still clamoring, and raising the bid price by 1 gold coin at a time, completely ignoring the situation on the stage. However, they suddenly felt a strong force being imposed on their bodies out of nowhere that caused the rowdy crowd to quiet down all of a sudden. However, the quietness did not last for long, and immediately afterwards, they became even louder. In comparison, those from the smaller forces did not behave too outrageously, and were merely venting their displeasure. Those who didn't care much about Grand Duke Viti's identity began questioning him, and doubting the fairness of the auction. There were some who even questioned Grand Duke Viti's character, and got the Gilded Kingdom's reputation involved. I thought it was something impressive, turns out it's just a gravity mageth. How dare they put such a low-level mageth that even an inscription apprentice wouldn't bother creating up for auction. Feeling the power on the magic scroll, Grina's derisive laughter got even louder. Gravity mageth. In fact, almost everyone thought of the same thing after they sensed the dense force that was being put on their bodies. It could be seen from their reactions that the gravity mageth was not something profound. Not to mention professional inscribers, even those who had very little understanding of inscription knew what the gravity mageth was. The gravity mageth had a simple function, and that was to add a greater gravitational force, which was akin to tying a large pile of iron to a person. Hence, many warriors would use such a method for strength training. In addition, opening a gravity mageth scroll during a battle would cause some impact on the enemy's actions, though it wouldn't be too major. After all, warriors had probably gotten used to moving with additional gravitational force. On the other hand, the spellcasting of mages wouldn't get affected by gravity. Hence, regardless of which aspect it was, the uses for the gravity mageth were very limited. Strictly speaking, there were no specific or distinct levels for gravity mageths, which even inscription apprentices could create. However, as the ability of the inscriber increased, the power of the gravity mageth would also be improved to a certain extent. However, the increase wouldn't be too great. For example, the power of a gravity mageth drawn by a master-level inscriber would probably be about the same level as a high-level mageth. Hence, inscribers generally wouldn't spend their energy on gravity mageths. Based on the dense force, everyone guessed that the magic scroll in Grand Duke Viti's hand was only a low-level gravity mageth, and thus they were even more disdainful. To them, it was worse than a master-level mageth. Everyone was extremely dissatisfied with Grand Duke Viti for putting this lousy, garbage-like magic scroll up for auction. Grand Duke Viti, you must be kidding. You're going overboard with the joke, and we don't have all the time in the world to play this game with you. After determining that the magic scroll was a gravity mageth, everyone in the auction hall stood up and prepared to leave. Those who qualified to attend the auction were all prestigious figures of status in the endless ocean, and there was nothing worth rejoicing about being pranked like this. If it was just a harmless joke, they would just laugh it off. But they found Grand Duke Viti's decision to bring such a lousy mageth, or so they thought, onto the stage for auction to be an insult to them. Even though they didn't think that Grand Duke Viti really had the guts to offend so many people, they didn't want to continue entertaining his joke. In particular, Grina, who hated Lin Li for sabotaging his auction plans, also resented Grand Duke Viti. He remembered the answer that the Gilded Kingdom had given him after he got into a conflict with the Tower of Dusk previously. After the failure he encountered during this auction, and seeing the Gilded Kingdom's attitude and stand, he naturally thought that the Gilded Kingdom and the Tower of Dusk had to be in cahoots. However, Grina didn't clamor about leaving the auction like the others. In his opinion, the Gilded Kingdom had put on this act obviously because they were trying to get closer to the Tower of Dusk. If he left just like that, it would be doing them a favor. Hence, when everyone was kicking up a fuss and claiming that they were about to leave, Grina stood in front of the window of the private room, with almost half of his body leaning outwards. He yelled, "Everyone, please be quiet. I believe that Grand Duke Viti will give us a satisfactory answer for this matter. Otherwise, we'll have every reason to doubt the fairness of this auction." As the prince of the giant shark clan, Grina was clearly not brainless. He tried to take the opportunity to blow things up. If the fairness of the auction was doubted by everyone, the items that had been auctioned off previously would have to be put up for auction again. During the buffer period, Grina would be able to make better preparations for a counterattack. Grina's words made the faces of Bradler and Monterey, who were in the royal private room, turned incredibly sullen. This auction was not only held in the Gilded Kingdom, but also hosted by the Gilded Kingdom. Grina's act of questioning the fairness of the auction was tantamount to questioning the credibility of the Gilded Kingdom. However, Bradler couldn't air his grievances regarding this matter, because at the end of the day, he was the one who'd caused it all. If he hadn't tried to use the auction to forge some friendly ties with Lin Li, he wouldn't have asked the latter to put his scroll up for auction. If he hadn't sent Monterey to persuade Grand Duke Viti, the scroll wouldn't have been put up for auction on the stage, either. Noticing how sullen Bradler's face was, Prince Monterey felt extremely uncomfortable, but he had no choice but to persuade, Your Majesty, things may not be as terrible as they seem. We should have faith in Grand Duke Viti and in President Felix. When it came to having faith in Lin Li, Prince Monterey still couldn't help but stutter. In fact, he wasn't very certain about it, nor was he confident in Lin Li's Magath. After all, just like Bradler, he was a layman who barely knew anything about inscription. He merely had a slight understanding of Magaths, because he usually came into contact with them. Hence, they could never guess what Grand Duke Viti had in mind when he put the scroll up for auction, and whether the scroll was an impressive item. While everyone was getting riled up and breaking into a commotion incited by Grina, Prince Cleve of the Siren clan stood out and said in a low voice, Grina, you can't make baseless claims just like that. I believe we all understand what Grand Duke Viti's reputation is like, and I'm sure he has his reasons for doing this. If there isn't anything that you have to see to urgently, why don't you guys sit down and hear him out? In the endless ocean, Prince Cliff's reputation was on par with that of the great monarchs of the other sea clans, which was far beyond what Grina, the prince of the giant shark clan, could compare to. Hence, after hearing Prince Cleve's words, the crowd in the hall suddenly quieted down. In fact, the greatest winner of this auction was undoubtedly the Siren clan, which had successfully won the auction for the heart of all evil. Now that Grina wanted to question the fairness of the auction, Prince Cleve of the Siren clan naturally had to stand out to refute him. In fact, Prince Cleve couldn't figure out why Lin Li would put up such an item for auction, either, but having crossed paths with Lin Li once, he could sense that Lin Li wasn't the type to fool around and pull a prank on others. Hence, he instinctively felt that the scroll probably wasn't as simple as it seemed to be. Of course, the Siren clan managed to acquire the heart of all evil all because of Lin Li's help, not to mention that the magic scroll, that hadn't been fully exhibited yet, even if it was eventually proven that the scroll was nothing but a gravity magath, Cleve would never criticize Lin Li. No matter what, Prince Cleve's words still carried more weight than Grina's. Even though the people were still in disdain of the gravity magath on the auction stage, they at least stopped clamoring about wanting to leave the auction, and no longer openly questioned the fairness of the auction. HMPH, Grina hummed coldly, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he returned to his seat furiously. Despite being extremely displeased with Prince Cleve, he dared not express his dissatisfaction too obviously. After all, Prince Cleve was just as authoritative as the great monarchs of the various sea clans of the Endless Ocean. No matter how arrogant Grina was, he wouldn't dare to disregard or disrespect Prince Cleve. Grand Duke Viti, who was standing on the stage and showcasing the magic scroll, felt extremely grateful to Prince Cleve for calming the people down even though he knew that Prince Cleve wasn't doing it for his sake. Of course, he couldn't thank Cleve now, because the most important thing to do currently was to complete the task at hand. Hence, while praying that the appraisal report was true, Grand Duke Viti slowly unrolled the magic scroll in his hand again. Perhaps because of a lack of confidence in the magic scroll, Grand Duke Viti revealed a quarter of the scroll this time, which was enough for the people to see a portion of the magath on it. If it was really just a gravity magath, the power that was released would remain about the same even if it was fully unrolled. Hence, when Grand Duke Viti unrolled the scroll, the crowd below the stage didn't bother paying much attention. Although they had been persuaded by Prince Cleve to stay, they were all still chatting among themselves about other matters, and thus completely ignoring Grand Duke Viti, who was on the stage. However, just when the crowd was unprepared, the dense force that was engulfing them suddenly became 100 times denser. Immediately afterwards, dense sounds of things breaking filled the hall. Under the oppression of the invisible force, everyone could feel a massive force being imposed on their bodies all of a sudden, causing the chairs they were sitting on to be crushed forcibly. Everyone felt that the bones in their own bodies seemed to be crackling under the massive force that was threatening to crush them at any time. Those who were weaker were forced to sit on the ground and were rendered immobile. They even began to develop breathing difficulties. Fortunately, all the defensive magic arrays in the auction hall had finally been stimulated. The pillars in the auction hall, which initially looked rather ordinary, seemed to have their facade removed immediately as they began glistening brightly. The golden rays of light that were being emitted from the pillars soon fused together and became one. protecting everyone in the venue. At this moment, everyone in the venue finally heaved a sigh of relief, and those people who had been forced to sit on the ground finally got up from the ground clumsily too. They were initially feeling rather awkward, but when they saw that everyone else was in the same state, they felt much better, and soon looked at the auction stage in unison. Even the weakest of those people was near the legendary level. Ordinary gravity mageths had no effect on them at all. In their opinion, this mageth should probably be at the master level since it could make them feel so overwhelmed. If not, it almost reached it. However, although the force made everyone feel rather disheveled and awkward, it was not powerful enough for them to take it seriously. After all, it was far from being comparable to the heart of all evil. Moreover, after coming back to their senses, they were rather infuriated because they thought that Grand Duke Viti had deliberately caused them to make fools of themselves. Otherwise, he would have warned them in advance. Of course, it didn't occur to them that they probably wouldn't have taken it seriously even if Grand Duke Viti had given them a reminder beforehand. Grand Duke Viti, don't you think your approach is overboard? Someone questioned in exasperation. The guests were all dignified figures, and the embarrassing slip-up that just happened felt like an insult thrown in their faces. Even though they were facing the Grand Duke of the Gilded Kingdom, they couldn't stomach it. Grand Duke Viti, you must get things right. We respect you for your reputation as a merchant, but we're not afraid of you at all, someone barked, seemingly wanting to go on stage to settle scores with Grand Duke Viti. However, Grand Duke Viti was also a little confused at this point as he stared at the wreckage below the stage while holding the scroll with trembling hands. It wasn't that he had been frightened by the force of the scroll, but rather everything that had happened so far seemed to fit the description in the appraisal report very closely. Hence, he thought of the terrifying conclusion at the end of the report. Of course, Grand Duke Viti was still skeptical and doubtful of the terrifying conclusion at the end of the report. Despite hoping it to be true, his rationality repeatedly told him that it was impossible. It was extremely lively in the auction venue, and it was certainly unprecedented. Although intense bidding sessions over popular items were commonplace during auctions, that would just be an issue between bidders. Visit November see for the L test updates. However, the current dispute was between the host of the auction, Grand Duke Viti, and the bidders, which was absolutely unprecedented. Grand Duke Viti, who had become the common enemy of all the bidders, snapped back to his senses, and felt like crying when he heard the people berating him. However, not all of them were blaming Grand Duke Viti. Among the various bidders, there were quite a few human inscribers, who were all looking at the scroll in Grand Duke Viti's hand in confusion. Apart from the Octopus clan, which was talented in the field of inscription, inscribers were very rare in Anral. However, all the top figures of the Endless Ocean were gathered at the auction, so of course there had to be a few human inscribers present among them. However, due to the limitation of talent, the level of those inscribers was not very high, and even the best among them hadn't reached the threshold of the master level. However, even an inscription apprentice knew that the power of a mageth would be determined by and kept constant at the power of the inscriber at the time of the drawing, which was a common sense in inscription. Even if the mageth was given a new mana source, the amount of mana that could be carried would remain the same, so the power that could be exerted naturally would not change. However, the current situation was somewhat misaligned with the common knowledge and facts of inscription known to those inscribers at the auction. They noticed that the power of the magic scroll was constantly enhanced as Grand Duke Viti unrolled it, which didn't seem logical, according to that common sense of inscription. They wondered, could it be that there is some kind of mechanism set up in the magic scroll that's specifically used to adjust the input of mana? Once the scroll is unrolled completely, what level will the mana reach? As the prince of the Octopus clan, there was no way Harquis wouldn't have been able to see the details that those few human inscribers had noticed. In fact, when Grand Duke Viti had just started to unroll the magic scroll that everyone thought was a gravity mageth, Harquis had already sensed the peculiarity of the scroll. In particular, when Harquis had felt the force that everyone merely thought was an enhanced gravitational force, he had already felt that something had been amiss. However, at that time, he'd only felt that the force had been a little strange, and he hadn't dwelled further on it. After all, the knowledge in the field of inscription was vast and profound. Even though he was already a master of inscription, he didn't dare to claim that he had mastered all the mageths below the master level. However, after Grand Duke Viti unrolled the magic scroll, and the force became stronger, which led to the unusual phenomena, Harquis finally came to terms with the extraordinariness of Lin Li, the human inscriber who even the Grand Elder of his clan thought was an expert in inscription. As the magic scroll was unrolled, the mageth on it was revealed. Harquis immediately focused his attention on it. Despite being seated quite a distance from the stage, Harquis could still clearly see the portion of the mageth that had been revealed. Unfortunately, Even after racking his brains, Harquist still couldn't tell what kind of mageth was drawn on the scroll. Fulik, what's the name of this magic scroll of yours? Although Connors seemed to be very confident in Lin Li, he actually only developed his faith in him based on his past experience and understanding of Lin Li. After drawing the magic scroll, Lin Li simply brought it to the Gilded Kingdom for the auction without showing it to anyone. Hence, it was also Connors' first time sensing the power contained in the magic scroll. However, he was clueless as to what was contained in it. Strictly speaking, the incidents that occurred in the hall were actually caused by Lin Li's magic scroll. However, Lin Li was just sipping on some wine in the private room leisurely as if he didn't care about what was going on outside at all. Anyway, it was the last auction item, and he couldn't possibly bid for his own item. Hence, he couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the auction anymore. Hearing Connors' question, Lin Li swirled his wine glass gently and stared at the opulent color of the wine that was flowing down the inner surface of the glass. He calmly said, "Mount Tai." After hearing his answer, Connors was stunned for a moment, but he soon began to frown. What's Mount Tai? Despite being an ancient demon deity of Anral, he had never heard of such a thing before, but he could infer that it was some kind of mountain. However, he couldn't figure out what a mountain had to do with a mageth. However, Lin Li didn't explain further. Well, he couldn't possibly say that the name originated from another world. Although given his current strength, he wouldn't face any huge trouble even if he told others about his transmigration. He didn't want to waste his precious time on answering such a pointless question. Mount Tai is Mount Tai. Call it a hillbilly among nameless places that's unheard of, or a mythical mountain that was destroyed. Whatever it is, it's up to them to decipher it. Seeing that Lin Li did not intend to explain further, Connors stopped probing and instead turned to look over at the auction stage to continue watching the show unfold. Grand Duke Viti, are you still not embarrassed enough? Hurry up and get rid of that junk for a few gold coins lest you continue making a fool out of yourself here, Grina said scornfully. He had also been frightened by that force just now, but like most of the people there, he was clueless about inscriptions, and naturally didn't think that there was anything strange about that matter just now.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.